What we do here is go back.
Let's see, you never know, this might actually be working. Looks like it might be. Is that? Yep, that looks okay. Oh, I've still got that on there. Thank you for that. Good evening everyone, Mike here, Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. Hopefully you can hear and or see me. Looks like possibly you can. Let's have a look in the chat, see if anyone can hear me. 1 2 1 2, testing, testing, 1 2, testing. We can see you and hear you. Excellent stuff. Let's see if the overhead camera is also working. You see my cup of tea is virtually empty.
Oh, am I?
That's Kath's fault.
I was hoping you'd make one.
Sky says Mike looks cold tonight. Sounds good, thank you. Ugly Bob says you're getting good at this streaming thing. If only that were true. Let's have a look. Desktop stream, yep, that seems to be working as well, so we can take a look at that later should we need to. And there we go, we're back. It is Saturday the 27th of January 2024. How you all doing? Hopefully you're having a fantastic day, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Overhead sound, yep, it's all working. Cool, everything is working. Yep, we can hear a bit low though. Anyone else think that the volume is a little bit low? We can increase it if necessary. Matthew Day says on time. What? I know. Surprised myself. I've actually been very busy today. Managed to film a video, edit a video, get it uploaded. Saturday is the bonus day for us here. Trying to catch up. Volume says okay. Audio sounds okay to me. Sounds good here. Okay, no worries. Maybe we are okay. Thanks for the early super chat from Ugly Bob. Thank you, sir.
Me the lamp.
Didn't give her the remote control. And also thank you to Stuart Cleary if you're catching up. Thank you for the PayPal donation. Much appreciated. Ugly Bob says it was a bit low. I just turned me volume up. Right, I'm going to turn the volume up because I think I have actually adjusted it off a little bit. So let's... don't buy that one. Stream mic is a little bit low, so let's go to there. That should be better. Is that better? A wee bit lighter. Hopefully we're okay. Rick H says I use the 6000% volume extension on Firefox. Excellent stuff. I need to still make a video on Firefox, or at least use Firefox. Still never got around to using it. Don't know why I've always been put off by it. I quite like Safari as well. I use it on the iPhone. I am tempted, I know I keep on saying this, but I am very tempted to buy an Apple Mac. I know it goes against everything that us PC enthusiasts believe in, but I think it's always good to try different things, new things, see what it's like. Rick H says 600%. I know, I was kidding. Netscape Navigator for the win, says Ugly Bob. Dutch Jan says, I'm not quite there. I'm doing a motherboard repair. A main board repair, sorry. I'm going to have to put my glasses on. My eyes... I've been putting some eye drops in this week. So my eyes been feeling really itchy and scratchy. So I've been using some eye drops. And I think the eye drops maybe are softening up the lenses in my eye. So my focus is changing. And it's giving me like a bit of an eye strain headache. Where my eye is now focusing at a different point. These things that we get as we get older. You youngsters won't know anything about that. David Underhill says, in the red corner we have Mike, and in the green we have Kath. Are you ready to grumble? I think that phrase is actually copyrighted. Let's get ready to rumble. I think that is actually a copyrighted thing.
Let's say it again.
Yes, let's say it again and get a copyright strike, because we love those here. They make my day. Ah dear. Hopefully you're all doing well. Now the reason we've got this Aether Media stuff on the desk is, well, we've got some reviews coming up for these capture cards. And also there's a very kind of bizarre thing that they've sent over. So Aether Media, if you don't know, they do kind of capture cards, microphones, wireless kits, those kinds of products. Similar to kind of Elgato in that regard. So they said, well, previously they sent over a capture card, USB one. That was from a UK like affiliate or source called CUDA here in the UK. And they've reached out and said, would you like to review it? It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Then Aether Media sent us an email directly, which was a little bit odd, after the review went out. And they said, we've got some more cards. They're due out. Can we send you a bundle? So, well, yeah, I guess so. But you always got to be careful with these people, because you get all kinds of emails from all kinds of places, and they, even though they look legit, it's super, super easy to spoof an email address. So you've got to be really careful who you reply to and who you give your details to. So basically I gave them my work address. Thanks, work address. And yeah, they sent it over there, and it's turned up and it all seems legit. So I'm very happy to say that is the case. So they sent over 2 cards. This one here, which is their latest and greatest, the PCI Express one, Live Gamer 4K 2.1. As you probably guessed, supports HDMI 2.1 specifications. So you've got 4K 60 recording, 4K 144Hz pass-through, and variable refresh rate and all that kind of stuff. Also has RGB, even though it's a PCI Express card. But they also sent this one as well, which is the kind of cut down version, about £100 cheaper. This is the Live Streamer Ultra HD, which I've been testing last couple of days. I actually just finished doing the video on this afternoon. And this thing is awesome. It's basically like invisible. It's super small, very compact, like razor thin. It's not much higher than the PCB itself. And I've done the James Miscellaneous trick of using a Sharpie to go around the PCB edge, just to make sure that that hides as well. And when it's actually in the system, you basically can't see it's there at all. So it's excellent. And best of all, it uses PCI Express Gen 3 ×1. Very, very few capture cards use the ×1 slot. And if you've got a motherboard which doesn't have a ×4 or ×8 or ×16 slot towards the bottom of the motherboard, it means you've got to stick your capture card right up slap bang next to the graphics card, which then obviously, if you're a streamer, you're probably streaming a game, you don't want your graphics card to be choked off by a capture card, which is actually exactly the case. If you look behind me, we've got our GeForce RTX 3060 Ti in here, in the streaming PC, and the capture card there is the Elgato, which we're currently using because it's got 4 inputs, and it's basically 1 slot down. So the cool air, which technically, well, would normally get into the graphics card above there, above the fan, basically doesn't. So it just pulls hot air off of the Elgato card straight into the graphics card, which is not very good. So this potentially is going to be the way forward. Maybe even 2 of these, one on top of the other, one for the overhead camera, one for the bottom camera, and still leaving an absolute ton of room for the graphics card, which is awesome. What is that noise? Oh, it's the fire. Trying to get the fire going. It's pretty cold in here today. Currently we're residing at 20.3 degrees Celsius, so it's not too bad.
Too bad and no heating.
And 61% is the humidity. Not quite the Australia levels, where I think at the moment it's about 26 degrees Celsius and about 97% humidity. So a little bit on the sweaty side. Skystalker, does that PCIe capture card have an HDMI pass-through? It certainly does. I'll give you a close-up. There you go. So you've got your HDMI in, so you can have up to 4K 60 as an output and 4K 30 capture, or you can do, let me think, it was 1440p, 60 frames per second capture, 144 Hz pass-through, 1080p, it'll do 120 FPS capture and 240 FPS as the pass-through. All of which supporting variable refresh rate and also HDR, should you wish to. So yeah, this is actually very cool. And I've done some test footage, and the footage is freaking awesome. You've probably seen the video I did previously, or maybe you didn't, maybe you did, I don't know. The USB-C version of this, which I used on my other PC to capture some footage, and it wasn't great. It was a little bit grainy. There was some kind of obvious visual artifacts where the PC, the capturing just wouldn't keep it up. The card was putting the information through, it's just the PC could not decode it quick enough. So yeah, for this, it's worked out absolutely great. And the footage from this, actually, bizarrely, is better than the other card, which was like nearly £300 worth. So yeah, very strange. So I'm going to look forward to retesting that and see what it is. So yeah, pass through on that one. This has also got the same, so input and output, although it's got like ridiculously low latency as well. So the latency difference, I think, when I measured it, I think the system latency was about 5.5 milliseconds, I think it was. And actually taking the input into here, decoded and pushed back out again, added about 0.3 milliseconds. So it was like 5.8 milliseconds, which, if you know the difference between milliseconds, it's basically you cannot detect it at all, which is why I've called this the invisible card, because you basically don't know it's doing anything. You don't even know it's in PC. Very good. And not too bad a price. Looking about not too bad a price. You're looking round about £150, maybe 160, depending where you're looking. I think Amazon.co.uk have currently got them on for £159. I think there's also a voucher which you can add on to that to bring it down a little bit. So absolutely cracking bit of kit. So if you are wanting to capture either things from your PC, your PlayStation 5, your Xbox series, whatever they are these days, or even from a DSLR camera, that sort of thing, then very, very nice piece of kit indeed. And totally plug and play. Literally needs no software whatsoever, completely, what's it, they call it UVC or UNC? I think it's a UVC, Universal Video Component. But yeah, works very well. So very pleased with that. Not got around to testing this one yet, so that is going to be coming up this week. They also sent over the most bizarre gift, which is a mouse pad. I never quite understand what goes on in the minds of these companies, especially ones which are kind of Taiwan based, because obviously it's a very, very different culture over there than what is in good old conservative England. So this is the AverMedia Elena mousepad they've sent over. I believe that is what they call anime. Maybe I'm wrong on that, I don't know. I don't know much. I'm not a very modern man. So if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Skystalker says 5.5 milliseconds is amazing. Now this is the perceived delay. So the testing I've done with my open source response time testing tool also monitor or can measure system latency. So basically, you'll see it when the video comes out. There's graphs and everything. Doing graphs and videos. What's going on? I'm almost turning into a professional. Who thought it? Skystalker says a teenage girl mousepad. Strange. Yes. Now you think that is strange. The next bit is gonna absolutely blow your noodle. So bear with me a second. I've just got it off camera here. I'm gonna have to take off my Mike's Unboxing hoodie for this moment.
Do I need a quick drink?
Ow, that was my shoulder for those of you that are listening in stereo. Left shoulder. For those of you that are watching in black and white, the blue is next to the green. I actually did that in a video recently, and I'll be interested in anyone picks up on it. So this is what they've sent. So when I first looked at this, I thought, oh cool, it's a hoodie. So it says AverMedia, create and connect. And there's the hood. It's got the AverMedia logo on it. And yeah, other than that, I don't really understand the rest of it. So it's like some sort of cape, I think. So it hasn't got any armholes on either side, but it has got these kind of wings to it. So I honestly don't know what I'm doing. So,
You need that axe thing.
so I think that pops into there. There's another one or two there.
Oh dear.
And yeah, I don't know. Is it supposed to be worn like this, like a poncho? Or have no freaking idea. I have a superhero cape. Not all superheroes wear capes. Texel says keep it on. It's a cape. I don't understand. Maybe it's a generational thing, I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna be a wizard now with my yeah, let's forget I did that. Mudman.
Mudman.
Grand Wizard of the Morons. Oh, Masons. Yeah, thank you, Bob. Mick Woods, £10 super chat. Thank you very much. Where is it? There we go. It says, hi, Mike, Kath, and the Saturday night people. Suddenly turned very cold here in Greenwich. Is that supposed to be Greenwich? Or Greenwich? I can never tell. Addresses. I'm assuming that's Greenwich. No idea. Red Riding Hood in drag, says Nick Barnes. That's it. I should get on one of the filters, shouldn't I? Put all me lippy and that on.
Yeah.
So Mike the Wizard. So I don't know. Ugly Bob says, don't worry, I will be photoshopping this beauty. So I think with the hood down, I'm actually really warm already, but my arms are cold. So I might have to see if I can. Oh, hang on. There's another button there. And there's a button there. Hey, I've missed out something.
Oh, what, there's stuff on there.
There is a button there.
Oh, I thought it
Okay.
was one of those heated ones or something.
No, I thought.
An actual real button.
I was looking for the USB, so there we go. Yes, look at that. You can actually have your arms kind of come out a little bit like you're like one of those little people that have the small arms. That's probably not politically correct, but what the hell. Anyway, so yeah, this is you can't even dab in it, really. Not that I really want to be dabbing, but I think I could do with a few more buttons down the bottom to cover up my guts. Anyway, thank you very much to David Underhill says if Mike starts waving his magic wand, I'm out of here. Where is it? Bob's hidden my magic wand.
I got it.
Get the magic wand. This is definitely going to get us demonetized. This Saturday night. What the hell?
This one?
Yeah. There we go. I've got my magic wand.
I knew.
Thanks, Ugly Bob.
I knew that'd be the magic one.
This is the sort of thing that gets sent to us in the post. So yeah, I can be a wizard now. So this is a bottle opener for anyone that's wondering. Even though it may be somewhat shaped like an ergonomic device, it isn't. It is a bottle opener. Oh dear. Skystalker says that one does look a bit questionable. Yeah. William Bodie says, Dr. Evil's back, but where is Mini-Me? Flame is just there, off the camera. Ugly Bob says, that's right, grasp it lightly, tightly, or it'll go off.
Say hi. Hi.
There's Flame.
You can stand up.
I just realised I've still got the colour balance set very, very badly on the camera. Or on the lights, I'm not too sure. Everything looks bloody red.
He's so heavy.
Where is my settings? What am I on? So I am on 5700 kelvins. That's why it's wrong. Jesus Christ. Right, bear with me a second. White balance set, 57. Let's try 56 because there's probably a bit of bloody smoke on it. There we go, 56. Is that a bit better? Is that slightly more natural coloured yet? No? Maybe it will be. I don't know what it is, because I've started doing monitor testing and testing things and looking at things in more depth. Now this is actually Welly Bob's fault. He did say this would happen, that when you actually start measuring like minute differences between things, you start to notice more things.
The wand.
Not the wand, no. No, not the wand.
Differences.
Dear. I'm not going to go there. Make the tea. Just go make the tea and put that thing away. Bob, you're leading her astray. Yeah, it looks like the colours. That colour looks wrecked, but it looks fine on there. Ah, I know what I've done. Sorry. Bear with. I have to change my colour profile. Stream my HDMI 1. Settings. It's in here. Output. Oh, you can't change it while you're filming, can you? Video. Output. Blah, blah, blah. No, I can't do it. I did change the color profile to the NV12 RGB 24 or something. I don't know. Whatever. Mookie MC says, I'm only 15 minutes in and I've already seen some things that are unsettling. Think yourself lucky you don't live here. You'd see many, many, many fine things, some of which would be very unsettling. normally when I get out of bed in the morning, it's like, oh my God. It's like, if you've ever watched Shaun of the Dead, if you watch it at the very end, when Shaun gets out of bed and he goes to go into the living room and he walks like, like the zombie, that's me every morning. Actually, it's me most of the day, to be fair. Anyway, we'll move on.
You haven't got that much energy.
Yeah, that's true.
To be
That's
fair.
true. Right. A letter says let's try that again. A letter says I finally took my Thermaltake CTE 750 out of the box and put it on my workbench. It's just the right size. See, you Americans are really lucky because you've got big houses and big things. The CT 750, even the CT 500, for me is just way, way too big.
We haven't even got enough room for enough cat litters.
Yeah, we haven't. That's absolutely true. But I'm glad you got your CT 750 and I hope you enjoy it. Actually, Thermaltake have been really good and they've sent us out a bunch of new cases and one old case. So we're doing an actual proper test of the CTE T500 against a traditional ATX style tower using exactly the same components, exactly the same amount of fans, exactly the same configuration to see if the CTE, centralized thermal efficiency airflow system, actually has any tangible benefits, which it kind of does. I think most people will probably like completely aware of that. But quite often when you watch these videos, especially the Thermaltake ones, because Thermaltake make fans as well, they generally put an absolute metric shit ton of fans inside the PCs. And it kind of gives you the feeling that, well, yeah, more fans equals cooler PC. That's a given to some extent. But that isn't always the case. So I wanted to test an exact same setup. So one of these massive CTE form factor cases, but with only 4 fans installed. And exactly the same in a traditional ATX layout case with the same 4 fans. And, well, you'll be interested to see what happens when the review comes out. It's actually very interesting. So, yeah, you'll enjoy that. Hopefully you will anyway. A letter says, Kevin, wait till 7 PM EST. Tonight is WWE Royal Rumble. And I'm guessing Thingy McMahon won't be there. He's quit his role because he's been a very, well, potentially been allegedly a very naughty, naughty monkey. He really has. A letter says, I moved like a zombie too until I went on the carnivore diet. Now I feel like I'm 30 again. I am very much considering doing that myself, actually. Not so much carnivore, maybe carnivore and some veggies. But we've there's a local what they call the meat machine, and it turns up into like pub car parks around Bristol and around the country actually, and they've got quite a good relationship with Kath, and they just like every time she goes there, they just she waves the bottle opener, gives her a cheeky grin and a wink, and she comes home with bags of meat. Who'd have thought it? So it's, yeah, really good. I think she spent about £15 to £20 and come back with like 4 carrier bags full of meat, and it all looks like good stuff. And we've cooked it up, and it's not that stuff that like shrinks down to nothing. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. A letter says, Ugly Bob good. The old man was ruining WWE. Yeah, Vince won't be there to watch it. I don't think he will. I think he might be watching it from home, or from a very small white room with bars in it, possibly. I joke, I jest. It's all allegedly at the moment because it's only just come into the news. So, who knows? Anyway, moving on. David Underhill says 4 bags of roadkill. It looks like really good stuff, and I would be tempted to get Kath to go and get a bag of it to show you, but because there may be people who are not carnivores. They may not appreciate seeing basically raw flesh. Even though you're looking at me, some raw flesh right here, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, let's get on with this. So anyway, that is the Aether Media stuff out of the way. I'm going to take this cape off. Now that I've actually discovered how it works, I can... Yeah. Oh, feck. Actually, if I leave that, that'll be all right, so I don't have to do the arms. Excuse me, peoples. Okay. La 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 la, talk amongst yourselves. I might wear that to work tomorrow, that'd be hilarious.
We can wear it to bed.
It's not a bad idea.
One of those bottomless dressing gowns. Smoking jacket.
My smoking jacket. Right then. Oh, could I put those away? I could clear the desk while I'm at it. That would be helpful. Going to need to make some room for this case we're going to be checking out. So tonight we're going to be taking a look at the IONZ KZ-VM2 or KZ-V Mesh Mark II, the KZ-V Black Aether Mesh, Black Aether Ultra. There's about 19 different names for it, so you can call it whatever you like. It's good. Firestorm. Did you see Intel Arc GPU got a good driver update? I have heard it, but I have not tried it. And I still actually want to see what that is like. The whole Intel Arc situation is... yeah, it's a very odd situation. And looking at some of the news which has come out in only just the last few, well, hours really, it does seem that the Intel Battle Mage looks like it won't be heading to the mobile market. It looks like it's going to be discrete only, if it makes it that far. So at the moment, we're kind of back to where we were almost 2 years ago, where it's kind of like Intel Arc is basically dead and buried. But yet they keep on working on the drivers. But they keep on also making announcements. Like, we really should have had Battle Mage by now. It should be on the shelves and in our PCs. But it's been significantly delayed even. Now, I know Roger Kadori was fired quite unceremoniously, and the entire Intel Arc graphics division were basically disbanded. So it's I don't know. I really want Intel to come back strong. I really want the Battle Mage GPU to be good. I want it to be a competitor for Intel and AMD, because Lord knows, we know definitely that that is something which is desperately needed. If you, like me, have been watching this week the RTX 4070 Ti Super reviews and were basically completely underwhelmed. Yes, it's a step in the right direction in terms of pricing. Yes, it's still a very powerful card, but it just seems like, I don't know, they're just giving up. For me, I think the 4070 Super was a far more interesting opening salvo of reviews than the Ti Super. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I think that if the 4080 Super isn't genuinely super and very heavily reduced in price, I think this is going to be one of the worst refreshes we've seen in a long time, with only kind of one real standout winner at the moment being the 4070 Super, which still, I think at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the one to be looking at. Maybe even the 4070 non-super at its slightly reduced price. Still 500 quid for a graphics card, or £530 depending where you're shopping. And the 7800 XT in gaming definitely still gives it a very good, strong run for its money. It just feels like the mid-range graphics cards are not really mid-range anymore. It seems to be like we've skipped something there completely. It's very bizarre. Anyway. Rick says, I like the art cards. I do. I'll be honest with you, I do. And I think the only thing that NVIDIA have got really strongly going for them at the moment is the power efficiency. The power efficiency is very, very good. I'm still struggling with my 7800 XT, which is in my main computer, and the idle consumption power-wise is frightening. Absolutely frightening. It's actually worse than the Intel Arc. So quite often I can be on my desktop and I'll see I've got the power meters running on the side, and quite often I'll see it kind of go to 60 to 80 watts just on desktop, doing basically nothing. That's not right. It's not right at all. And supposedly the new drivers fix it, and they, well, haven't. I might have to do a fresh install, but anyway. Ron Dowling, how you doing, Ron? Good to see you. Oh, hang on. What's Bob done now? That's got to be Bob, isn't it?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Neck this round then, and it's all back to my room, you filthy hobbits. That's actually quite good. Well done, Bob. Hey Glenn, how you doing? Good evening everyone, actually, I should say that as well. See if this cup of tea is way too hot and I'm going to burn myself. Bob, you better post that picture on Discord. Firestorm says same as my A770. Well, I found that the A770, when I tuned it, actually, and did the things in the PCI Express bus, it was actually pretty decent, and it maybe the highest was about 40 watts on the desktop, maybe 33. Generally it would be kind of somewhere between 12 and 16, which I'm very happy with. But yeah, it was the 7800 XT has been pretty horrible for me so far, so much so that I've actually resorted to using proxies in Adobe Premiere, which I've been fighting against doing for the longest time, because using proxies it's just another step in the process of making videos, which not everybody wants to do. For those of you who don't understand, when you do video editing, you get your footage, like you record your footage on your camera or your desktop or whatever it is, you throw it onto the timeline and it plays back that footage. So if it's like recorded 4K 30 frames per second footage, it's quite difficult to play anyway. So if you're in a video editing program and you're kind of moving along the timeline, scrubbing they call it, it sometimes gets a bit choppy because your graphics card's having to do quite a lot. And when it comes to adding additional layers, so if you put like an overlay or a transition or something, it makes it even harder. So using proxies, basically this program takes your footage and in the background creates a much lower resolution file, so you can play that on the timeline, but it doesn't affect the original. So when you come to actually rendering it at the end, it looks as it should do, but when you're actually editing, it's in a lower resolution. So you're like editing at 1080p, but your video is 4K. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, proxies are a pain, but I am finding that it's making a significant difference to my video editing. So maybe I will stick with AMD for the time being. I'm still unsure whether or not I'm going to send the 7800 XT back. I have sent an email to the people at overclockers.co.uk who I bought it from. It was a genuine purchase out of my own money. Well, the company's money, but the same thing. And I just sent an email saying, look, is there any chance I can return this? So I'm not particularly happy with the performance that was promised from the AMD literature in terms of them working hand in hand with Adobe to make this a much more competitive card against NVIDIA. Can I return it? Can I replace it with a 4070 Super or a 4070 Ti Super? So hopefully I'll get a reply on Monday or Tuesday, and I will keep you posted to see what goes on. But at the moment, the 7800, it performs well. And actually the new feature with the, what's it they call it? The AMD frame, is it AFMF? Whatever it is, this new technology which basically adds frames at a driver level is actually pretty good. And it does improve games frames per second. It does seem to add a very little amount of latency. So some games benefit, some don't. If you're playing something like CSGO, you probably don't want it on, or CS2. Any sort of twitchy first-person shooter, it's probably not ideal. And certainly things like Rocket League, you don't really need it in that. But in other titles like maybe Dying Light 2, Dead Island 2, whatever games is there, that sort of thing. Anything that doesn't require it to be like really twitchy, something like Microsoft Flight Simulator, be fantastic for that. Take a lot of stress off it. But also, there's a new thing which is in the video playback. So in Chrome and Edge, and I think in other browsers as well, there's a thing in there where it'll actually upscale video. So I can watch now a 4K YouTube video on Chrome, and if you look in the stats for nerds, normally it would say like what was it, 3440, no, 3840 by 2160, and I'll tell you how many frames and all that kind of stuff. So as now, it kind of scales it and then upscales it. But I actually find it looks better. I think it actually looks better upscaled than the native footage. So they've added something to it. I was watching some footage today. Steve at Gamers Nexus is great because you can see every single one of his grey hairs that he's received from having to review Nvidia cards over the year. So yes, it's pretty cool. Very impressed. So yeah, AMD have got a few tricks up their sleeve, and obviously it's cheaper considerably. So I don't know. I'm still... It's awkward that I bought a 7800 XT, which is basically 500 quid. And I still feel like I should have probably stuck with my 6800, which is a real shame. And now that I'm using proxies in Premiere, it kind of even more so. But anyway, just goes to show how good the 6000 series is if you can get it at the right prices. But anyway. Also this week, sent in for us for review. I think this was last week actually. Ugly Bob, bless his heart, and his blue coloured dildos. He has sent in the One More Sonoflow SE Bluetooth wireless headset, and I've actually been using this week to see what it's like, so I can give you
The headset or the dildo?
Not the dildo, the headset. I've been using that this week. Actually doing some video editing, watching some movies, and just pissing around really to see what it can do. And these are actually surprisingly good. They're under 50 quid. They're even cheaper for me because Bob sent them. But yeah, these are actually very good, very comfortable. The battery life seems to go on for basically forever. And the active noise cancelling, even the passive noise cancelling is really good. Kath will vouch for this. She said to me the other day, did we buy that soundproof booth? And I'm like, huh?
No, that's just for me talking normally without headset on.
Yeah, to be fair, I think listen the best of times. But even more so, with these on, it's I'm going to do it now. It's bizarre. Because Kath can call me all kinds of horrible names.
But I wouldn't.
And I can't hear a thing.
You can't hear a thing anyway.
So yeah, very nice, very cool. They actually look more expensive than they are. I think these look pretty darn cool. And let's turn them on. So power button there. They might not work as intended because I've not got them paired now. I think I've just disconnected them. But battery, oh, that sounds weird. Right. Right, now the noise cancelling's on, so I have no idea how loud I'm speaking or whatever. Oh, what he said something. I saw Kath's lips flapping, but I didn't hear anything. It's bizarre. It's such a weird feeling. Can't hear anything. So yeah, the noise cancelling is absolutely brilliant on these. It really is. Considering they're relatively inexpensive, they're very impressive. Anyway, if you're looking for some relatively inexpensive Bluetooth headphones, oh, actually, that's the one thing I wanted to do. I have not tested. I am very bad at my job. I have not tested what the microphone is like. So I thought actually it'd be a good idea to try and do it on the stream. So I can stick these on and I'll pair it to my computer and you can tell me what it sounds like, whether it sounds crap or not. I have heard someone else do a test on them and they actually sounded pretty good. So I don't think I've done myself an injustice there. So Bluetooth, turn Bluetooth on. We'll turn these bad boys back on. There is actually a mode on this as well where you can have them connected to two different devices at the same time. So you can actually hear lots of input. So you can have like your phone and also like your computer or something. Bluetooth on, more Sonoflow SE, let's connect. Connected, audio and microphone. So let's bring in another microphone here. So where are we? Audio input capture. We'll call it Sonoflow. Yes. And where are we? Headset, one more. There we go. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
I'll mute the other one.
Okay. So hopefully you can hear me. I'm not too sure if it's going to be too loud or not. It looks like the sound levels are okay. Echo now. Is that any better? Is it? What's the sound like? Does it sound okay? Hello, Kenny. That sounds good now. Ear down. Give me a medic. Sorry. Fine now. Seems decent. Hayden Trent says. Yep, hear you loud and clear. It's canny for a headset. Ian Taylor says good. Nick Barnes says pretty good. Dutch Jan says tin can. Wayne Bob says sounds okay. David says it sounded great until you started talking. Thank you. Little tinny but clear, says Aletta. Sky says it sounds slightly tinnier than the lav. Matthew Day says with no mic boom, how? Well, they've actually got 4 microphones built in, so there's 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and they're supposedly active. Mookie says, is the other mic active as well? It shouldn't be, but I'll turn it off just to verify. I've muted it in there, so microphone is now turned off, as you can see. No lights on it. So yeah, the lav is going to be obviously considerably better because a lav is designed for one purpose and one purpose only, whereas this is a headset is designed for multiple things. And actually, it's going through Bluetooth. Most people know by now that Microsoft's implementation of Bluetooth is basically horrendous. And to get the best out of it, you need a very, very good Bluetooth 5.0 or 5.3 if you can, Wi-Fi adapter, which I'm not sure. I think this Asus board might have a 5.2. But ultimately, yeah, these are £47 at the moment, I think, on Amazon. So if you can find them, yeah, I think it's £47.99. I think they were. Alessa says I wouldn't wear that. I don't want anyone to hear my brain is thinking. Yeah, tick, 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 tick. These are supposed to have active noise cancelling. Now, Cap's actually poking the fire, not with the blue dildo, but with a actual metal thing. Can you hear that? Okay, is like if there's background noise, it's supposed to have an AI element which blocks that out. So,
Stretching it a bit.
yeah. Can you hear that in the background? Calf tapping the fireplace.
My neighbours can hear it.
The neighbours probably do. Abdul says, yeah, you can hear it. Okay. So, yeah,
It is quite loud in here even.
the AI thing, when it comes to the whole kind of noise cancelling, I think it's a little bit of a gimmick, as is pretty much everything. So Ian Taylor says, yes, can hear Calf. I can't, actually. I wonder if I have to have a... Say something? Oh, right. Now I can hear... So now it's in transparent mode, so I can hear myself exactly. And it's really weird because it's basically taking my voice and then pumping it back through and then amplifying it into my ears. But there's no latency to it, so it sounds really normal. The ANC off, and I sound weird in my head. I sound really nasally. So, all right, that's with the ANC fully on. So now this is a really weird feeling. So if you've used ANC, like really strong ANC, when you're talking, it almost feels like you've got your hand over your nose, and you feel this kind of weird pressure in your head, like you've got a cold, or you've just like you're underwater and you're swimming underwater. It's got a very weird feeling to it. Anyway, so yeah, considering what this is, I think it sounds great. And you guys are saying that it's fine. So I'm going to listen back to this actually after and see what it's actually like. So I'm going to transfer back to the other microphone now. So let's turn this back on. Turning on. And we'll turn off the Sonoflow.
And there we go. We should be back on the normal microphone now. So yeah, these are actually really good. I'm very impressed, Bob. Good choice. 40 quid for those is a flipping bargain, says Bob. Now, there are a couple of downsides of them. So, like anything, like I like to be positive where possible, but there are some negative points about these which do kind of need to be highlighted, but they're very, very, very minimal in terms of the downsides. Nick Barnes says, how much are the lav microphones? I'm not too sure. The lav microphones, they're the Boya BYBM something. I think it's the XM6S2. Yeah, there we go. That's the lav mics, the wireless ones.
You're too cute tonight, Oops.
But the lav mic is great, and it does sound much, much better. Because it's basically, that's what it's designed to do. I have actually got a wireless mic which I could just put on the desk, but I quite like the lav mic. I think the sound's much better. And it means you don't have to actually do anything with the wall treatment. Anyway, back to the downsides of this. So one of the first downsides, which I noticed immediately, because I like to use headphones wired if I can, because I guess you would. No option for a 3.5mm jack on these, so it's Bluetooth or bust, which is a shame. So it means there are going to be some devices you just cannot use them with, which is a little bit of a shame. Would have liked to have seen that 3.5mm jack on there. The other thing is as well, you cannot use the noise cancelling actually just on its own. So it used to be with some of the older headphones, they'd have like a mechanical switch. So you could turn the ANC or the power on or off, and it would just do whatever you wanted it to do. With these, if they're not actually connected to a Bluetooth device which is active, they will turn themselves off after 3 minutes. So if you're thinking maybe get them and just have them so you can put them on, charge them up, stick them into noise cancelling mode and do some studying, revision or whatever and blocking out everything. Unfortunately, they will have to be connected to a Bluetooth device of some sort. I don't think it actually needs to be active, like playing loud, but it needs to have a Bluetooth connection signal. Otherwise, it'll turn off after 3 minutes. Other than that, well, if you're planning on using them out and about and you're in a slightly more moist country, then they don't have any IP rating at all. And because they've got the surround microphones for the ANC, there's actually holes in the top. So any water coming down potentially could get into them and possibly damage them. So they don't have any IP waterproof rating. So that is another possible downside. But having said that, that's the only 3 downsides. So if you're basically going to be using them probably mostly indoors and connected to a computer or a tablet most of the time or all the time, then they're basically perfect for the money. Like for £40, whatever they are now, I think. Yeah, Bob said I think they're £55 with a £15 off voucher. So 40 quid. Incredible battery life. 70 hours without active noise cancelling. 50 hours with active noise cancelling. And they charge, you can get 5 hours worth of charge in about 5 minutes on USB-C. Just from a normal wall socket. So pretty incredible stuff. So again, thank you very much, Santa Bob, for sending those over. Actually, I can put them back in the correct place now. On the headphone shelf, because they will be sticking around.
When we moved it, did we have like wall sockets in the skirting?
Yeah, I think we did, yeah.
When you said wall sockets, it just sounded a bit weird, isn't it? Right, came back to me.
So as it stands at the moment on the Hall of Fame for the Mike's Unboxing headset stash, there are currently the Logitech, I forget the name of those actually, what are they, the Logitech Pros? Logitech X Pros. They are designed in conjunction with Blue Yeti, so they have got pride of place almost. Then they've got the MSI GH50 USB. Those I use just because I'm a tart and I like RGB, so I plug it into the MSI PC and it works quite well. Those ones there, they're going to be a new addition, so the HQ30s, and we've got the Sennheiser, the HD569s, the closed back, again, noise cancelling. Those are better for wired or running for a DAC, that sort of thing. They sound incredible, they really do. But those, yeah, the HQ30s are very good. Very nice sound profile as well. Didn't mention that. The sound drivers are actually tuned by a Grammy Award winning artist. Not too sure which one, but Seems good. What was that? Grammys. Well done. Right. Mookie says slight sibilance with the headset, but not too bad. Yeah, I think for the money, you can't go too far wrong. Like, you're not going to use them for professional streaming or anything, but for walking along, commuting, taking a phone call, yeah, they're going to be cracking.
It's not on my phone when it's charging, baby.
Kieran says, woo, I'm late. Never mind. SPG33, how you doing? Okay, right.
Can I hear Otis purring?
I don't know. Let's take a look at this case because I've been putting it off for long enough now. Right, typical. Both cats are perched on it.
Shay.
No. No. Go on, Mabesy. Go on, Flamey. You can have the box back in a minute. I'll get the PC out. I'll get the case out and you can have it back. Gonna. Right, so tonight we're going to be taking a look at the IONZ Pro Gamer KZ-VM2. This is basically a revised version of the KZ-V, which actually I liked a lot before, but I did say at the time in the review, wow, this would be a great case. Why is there not a mesh on the front? That would make a massive difference. And lo and behold, as if by magic, out comes the KZ-VM2. So you've got side panel, flip out door, you've got mesh front panel, 3 fans included. Yeah, it's about 55 quid, I think. Specs on the box, so KZ-VM2, black Aether mesh, 1 USB 3, 2 USB 2s, 2 HD audios, ATX, micro ATX and ITX. Radiator support, it says it supports a 360mm rad in the top and a 360 or 420 in the front. I doubt that, but we'll have a look. 2 3.5-inch drives, 4 2.5-inch drives, 400mm max CPU. I'll continue shortly. Thank you for the super chat, Ugly Bob. Ugly Bob says, old ladies in wheelchairs and blankets over the legs. I don't think so. Retired mermaids. Aletta says, I think that box would fit inside my new TT case. It wouldn't be too far off.
Blinded myself there.
Maximum CPU height, 175mm. So pretty decent on that. 7 expansion slots. And it weighs around about 9 kilos. So it's not bad at all. I've not seen this myself at all yet, so you'll be seeing this for the first time with me. So let's find a knife. He's got a knife. Oh, that didn't go well. Has anybody seen the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Wonka film thing? I'm intrigued. Because the original was obviously nuts and amazing at the same time in equal amounts. And it's been around since, what was it, 1965 or something? And there was the Johnny Depp version, which I think was about 2006, I want to say. I'm going to get electric shock now, aren't I hate this bit. Oh no, no shocks. Good. So yeah, I'm wondering if the new Wonka is actually worth watching or not.
How old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat that out loud. Old enough. Old enough, young lady.
Watch it anymore.
Well, no, but sometimes it's like films like that. They're worth watching from an adult's point of view because the comedy or the kind of the way it's done is done very much tongue-in-cheek towards adults, but being a children's type film. Most people know what I mean. I don't. Nope, still no shock.
Said Mike, who finished watching Barbie after the kids fell asleep.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Quick tour around. So we have got dual tempered glass with pull-out sides. So got a pull-out side that side.
You're okay, Oaks. You scared him.
Swingy door. And on this side we have swingy door for no actual reason at all. Absolutely pointless. But someone somewhere probably thought it was a good idea. We have got on the front a mesh panel, which you also got a pull-out dust filter. I thought this bit come off as well. Yes, it does. So that bit is magnetic, so for easy access. And you've got two 140mm fans. So that is pretty cool. Does this go back on easily? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. How does that go back on? Ah, there we go. And then you stick your air filter in there. Happy days. Actually, not a bad setup. Oh my days. I forgot there's even more flaps. Let's move this round. So let's I'm gonna remove, oh, I secured that in there. So let's take the glass off.
Kittens.
Put it somewhere where a kitten isn't gonna commit harry-carry on it. So inside the case, pretty nice, pretty spacious actually, and they've covered up all the bits which I moaned about previously, which is here for the cable management. So that's pretty nice. And also you've got access to the bottom basement section on a magnetic door, and you've got removable drive sleds. That one don't want to come out because it's got bits in it. Fan controller, that's a bad sign sometimes. There's a fan controller. Let's see if it's got a speed control on it. Let's hope and pray that there isn't a speed control on it, or if there is, that it actually works, because these can be a pain in the proverbial. So we have got speed plus and minus. We've got memory, or we've got S plus and minus, M plus and minus, and brightness. So mode, speed. We're gonna have to test that out. See what that's all about. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's a very, very nice case. Very, very cool for what it is. For 50 quid, this has got a lot of stuff going on in it. Cheers, Ricardo.
I know, I think he's in.
Oh, he's in.
He
Got
said good night, everyone, so I'm assuming it meant bye.
Oh,
I
right.
think it's good evening, kind of.
Charles says, I did it again, got busy gaming and missed the beginning, getting about 55 minutes late, going back to the beginning. Mike will probably call me out on this. I just did. And it says, looks nice for the money. It's a pretty cheap case. Now, let's see what the deal is with radiators. I don't think you're going to get a 420 in there, to be honest with you. Built-in GPU brackets as well. Those are kind of nice. What are you doing, Otis?
Does it get the star approval?
What do you reckon, mate? Nice. I've run out of room.
So a ruler plus an ear.
So that does 16 inches, which is about 410 millimeters. Most 420 rads are going to be probably about 450, 460. So a 360 will go in there, no problems at all. A 420, no, not going to happen. Let's take this out. You could get 3 140 fans in there. But just because you can get 3 140mm fans in there doesn't mean you can get a 420mm radiator. I've had this conversation numerous times actually. There was a company we worked with ages and ages ago, which is probably still doing stuff, Sahara Gaming. And I kept on arguing with them because they say, well, the case does 420mm radiator. And it's like, well, it doesn't. It's actually a 360 back then. I said, well, it doesn't. They said, well, yeah, you can put 3 fans in there. I said, yeah, but just because you've got 3 120mm fans, that doesn't mean you can fit a 360mm radiator, because you've got the 360mm for the fans, like 3 120s, but then you've got the overhang, at least on one end, of the header for the tank, and also the pipework. And they're like, yeah, but it's still 360. It's like, well, no, it's not, is it? Clearly, because if the radiator is bigger than the fans, even if you can put 360mm fans in, you may not have the extra depth or space there for the radiator itself.
Your hands look massive then.
If you get them towards there, they look huge. Big hands. They stretch off into the distance. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, plenty of pass-throughs in here. If you want to put a radiator, you could on the back with the fans there. So leave the 2 fans that are in there and put a radiator 360 with their fans on. There's no reason why you shouldn't really. It'll still pull air through it eventually. Not ideal, but it will do it. You got the case fan cover. So actually, if I take that off there, just get a screwdriver. So there's a cable cover, which is held in with 4 screws. And
Does it come in ARGB fans? Question mark. Does it come in black?
it comes in black, and it comes in white as well, I believe. This is the black version, although it's not technically black. I would say it's more of a kind of almost like a charcoal. It's not a jet black. It's definitely got a sort of a greyish tinge to it. David Under says my 360mm Vitro AIO is nearly 420mm long. Yeah, most of the Arctic Freezer 360 is 405mm. I know that from memory. The Sahara AIO, which I've got up there, I think that was 403. But yeah, generally they tend to be at least 400 plus. So there, cable management channel and graphics card brackets supports. So if you're putting an ATX board in, you can remove that bit, move it along. There's some weird ventilation on the side there, which has no real business being there, but it is there. Of course, being that it's black, you don't necessarily have to take advantage of that cable cover. If you don't want to, you can leave that out. And you can actually put drives on here as well. So this will take 2.5 inch drives attached either onto the front or the back. Realistically, it's going to be the front, because if you do it on the back, you're going to be encroaching on the pass-through area for the cables for your motherboard. So yeah, nice and roomy inside. No problems with that at all. Nice bit of height on the top, and rubber grommets pretty much throughout, other than the bottom. So yeah, it's okay. All removable PCI Express blanking plates. Hexagonal mesh, always good for airflow. Same on the back. A little bit of extra on the top as well for where your radiator is going to sit. So that's good. Yeah, flat down side as we said earlier. On the back again, more tempered glass for, I don't know, a reason. Don't understand that, but still. And another cable management access on the back, so if you want to gain access to your wiring or whatever, you can do pretty easily. These are magnetic. No, these are screwed in, so you've got cable covers. And take those out. And for some reason, they've used different screw threads for all of the cable covers, which is a little bit annoying. So yeah, big pass-through cutout there. Again, I think this is a really bizarre idea, that if you didn't have the tempered glass, this would be completely unnecessary. But I guess it's one of those things where somebody just gets a bit of a bee in their bonnet and says, right, no, I want to do this. This is how it's going to be. So we've got our fan connections. Now the fans, unfortunately, that one's actually disconnected. But the fans are actually the 6-pin Yeah, proprietary 6-pin that go into the control box here. And is there a pass-through for fan speed control? So that is going to be quite important. Doesn't appear to be. It's got LED outputs, LED switch, and that is right. So yeah, you've got a pass through for the addressable RGB, but nothing in terms of fan speed control. So let's get a power supply out, fire these fans up and see what they're like, and hope and pray that they're at least reasonably controllable in terms of RPM. Otherwise, this is going to be one of those cases where if you do like it, you're going to probably be better off buying the version that comes without anything, like no fans. So power supply, we want a power cable, and we use the good old Thermaltake power supply, and hopefully it won't make things go pop. Something a bit weird about that power supply. I should have thrown it out really. Oh, where is my jumper? Not that I'm cold, just...
There it is. Your cape.
Not that jumper. Actually, I think I might have even left it in the box. Nope, I didn't. That would have been far too sensible. Well, it's warming up here at Mike's Unboxing. We're currently at 21.3, so it's only actually 1 degree hotter roughly, but the humidity has dropped significantly, like 10%. So it does feel a lot warmer. It's funny how humidity does that.
That's the fire in it.
Science, yo. Yeah, it does feel quite dry, doesn't it?
Fire gives you a much nicer heat than like central heating, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You kind of get warmed through with it rather than just outer circuit.
But it radiates, doesn't it? That's the thing. It radiates heat, which is nice. No, a fire, because it's got radiant heat. Rather,
But it's like totally different.
they call a radiator when it doesn't actually give off much radiant heat.
But you get warm from the radiator, but it doesn't last. If you sit by the fire and go down the shops, you're still warm when you get back.
Right, I need... Where's my little jumper for the power supply?
Can you answer Leo?
Not at the moment. What's your problem, Leo?
Should a motherboard be compatible with cooling in terms of ARGB connectors? For example, the ARGB V650M HDV-M2 motherboard with thermal right frozen not liquid cooling. Should I change it?
As long as that motherboard actually has an addressable RGB header, you should be absolutely fine. But I don't think that does from memory. I would have to look at the specifications, or you can have a look for yourself and see if it does have that. Where is my power supply jumper? Super annoying.
Can you use your Mike's Unboxing jumper?
No, it needs a proper jumper. Oh my goodness, where have I put that? Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. Where have I put that? Did I lob it in here? I should just jump start it with a...
Quote my favourite line.
Where's my jumper?
No. The art of tidying up is to know where you put things.
Yeah.
Why should you go say it?
I think you say it just to wind me up.
No, because you wind me up by not knowing where anything is.
Ah, that's where it is. I left it on the end of the power supply from last week. No, that was typical. I thought to myself, I'll leave it somewhere safe. I'll leave it actually on the power supply that I normally use. And I'm not normally using it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually excited to see what this RGB is like. And whether it sucks or not. Or actually, I think the RGB I think is going to be fine regardless. Because it's hard to mess up RGB. But if the fans are loud and you cannot control the speed of them, then that is going to be problematic. Not necessarily, because I would just put in some Thermaltake CT140s and it would change the case's appeal dramatically. Oh. And the monitor come back on. Good. I don't know why it does that.
No signal.
Ah, no signal. He's back.
That's probably ages ago as well. Mine's a bit low.
I don't think it's too bad actually. Right, we need a SATA connection from here. Hey, I can read the questions. Mike, the master of thermodynamics. You mean I sweat like a fat bloke? Mookie says the only reason I could see for glass on both sides is if you could switch the motherboard to the other side of the case for build. I see what you mean. William Bodie says, where's Stuart? Stuart is out at his 21st birthday party. Hey!
Dad dancing. As we speak.
He is currently dad dancing. Kind of something like that, maybe. I'm pleased to say... Oh, I didn't plug that in. I can't really hear the fans.
Sorry, I can't hear you over the fans. I can only hear
There's a
fire
very,
clicking.
very slight noise to them.
Hold on a minute, mates. I'll put some wood on. Oh, closing me knee.
Okay, so we're all right. We're not going to panic. We're good. So let's tuck that back in there. And they're not moving a massive amount of air, but they're moving a reasonable amount. I'm trying to think what I can do in there smoke wise. Have we got any of these little joystick incense things?
No.
Thought not. Right, let's. I was going to put one inside there so you can see the airflow, because that's how we do it, professionals. Is that even working?
I have a cigar in the kitchen.
Yep, that is working. There we go.
You want a cigar?
I'm good, thanks. Right, let's
What did we have
let's
to
pick
do-
white.
What did we have to
White's
do
a
in
good colour.
car with a cigar?
Oh yeah, smoke testing for leaks for a vacuum system. So I think this is on the lowest setting at the moment. So you won't be able to hear it over calf coughing. Or calf rumbling in the chocolate. She's not listening.
I'm looking at that in there.
Right, that is stopping. Right, let's see how many speeds we've got on here. You can probably hear the fire clicking in the background, so my apologies for that. So this is stop. So let's do 1 speed increment. Giorgio David, how old are you, Mike? He's 46. I'm in a very similar age bracket.
Laddie also has 180mm fans.
These are 140. I'm shit. Shit, I have not said the sizes. So the front fans, you get 240s, and the back one is 120. So that's on fan speed number 1. Get very close, you can hear them moving air, but that's about it. Go to speed number 2. A little bit of a click to them. Not particularly offensive. Speed number 3. Not really much change. Speed number 4. Don't think that's changed. Number 5. Let's turn it, see what happens. I'll just turn it right out. Oh, maybe that is on the full. Where's the remote? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so that's full speed. So they're not particularly fast spinning fans anyway. You can hear it, if you like, with the ear up against it, you can hear it, which you would with any fans. But actually, yeah, not bad. Quite enough. And certainly on the, what I'm guessing,
Poppy Dora.
I can't tell if that's, so if you, yeah, it's a little bit of an odd one, because if you put it in the slowest speed, or slower speeds, it didn't really move any air at all. So, I don't know. I would be tempted, I think, to go with the version that doesn't come with the fan hub, or the fans, to be honest with you, and I'd probably put my own fans in. But that is the beauty of the IONZ brand, is that you can kind of pick and choose a little bit. And generally, if you don't have the one that comes with like the fans and the controller, you're looking to save about 10 to 15 pounds. So that's going to take like a 55 quid case down to like 40 pounds ish, which for 40 pounds is a lot of case there. Which is a shame that you can't use, if they'd have put a PWM hub in there with a normal ARGB setup, I think that would have been much better. Let's go through the colours, see what the colour accuracy is like. So that is supposed to be red, which to me it looks actually quite red. And this, yeah, a little bit amber. On red is a really weird one to capture on camera. That is yellow, which yeah, kind of looks yellow. Orange, Gigabyte orange. Then we got royal purple, Nvidia green. Or is that that's probably razor green. Then you've got a slightly warmer yellow. Got a kind of skyish blue. Then you've got, I don't know, would you call that turquoise? Yes.
Charles.
Sorry, Charles. Enjoy your pizza. Hopefully it didn't put you off. So, yeah, turquoise. We call it turquoise. Deep blue. Another deeper yellow. Then a slightly other blue, which, looking at the remote control, I would say that blue is closer to that blue. Although there's not really. That's supposed to be the darker one. It's brighter. So those buttons are around the wrong way. And then back to white again. And I'm guessing, yes, you can adjust the brightness by at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps of brightness. Clearly they are center hub lit, as you can tell a mile off, because the diffusion on there. And let's see actually what it's like with the front panel back in place. I wonder if I can put this on. To be honest with you, with these fans, the filter on the front is kind of pointless. Although it's quite a nice mesh. It's that fine kind of nylon that you get in like the Corsairs. So with the side, is that actually moving any air? Oh, yeah, surprisingly, actually, it is still moving a reasonable amount of air. Not enough to really cool down a hot PC, but let's put them on, the fans on full. And yeah, you can feel there's air coming through there. It's not going to blow your mind, literally. Yeah, that wasn't intentional. So yeah, the fans I think are, for me personally, they're a little bit of a letdown. And I actually feel that some of the other slightly newer IONZ cases, like the one we had a look at last week, the fans that were in that, if those were in here with that controller, this would be a much better proposition, which is possibly one of the biggest downsides with IONZ, the brand. They go to a Chinese wholesaler, as you would expect, and they make very slight tweaks to existing designs. So there's like a limited amount of stock keeping units which are available for them to modify and to bring over to this market. So they can't just say, well, we want this case, but we want it with the fans from that one and the controller from that one. It's not really that kind of customizable deal, which is why they generally offer the option of having the case either populated with what it comes with in terms of fans and a controller, or just basically coming with nothing at all. I actually think, personally, in this instance, I don't know. They're not junk. They're okay. With the grill on the front and the mesh. A little bit missing. Anyway, it kind of is what it is. I actually quite like the look of it. I think it's quite an interesting look. Not too sure about the extra plastic inserts on the filter. I'd probably be tempted to take the snips to those and get rid of them, or are they glued to that? Oh no, they look like they might be slightly glued. Yeah, they've glued that to it, so that isn't going to be possible. But anyway, it's Jesus, what's the matter with you kids?
What are they doing, Tim? They haven't moved.
No, it was my fault. But I'm going to blame you guys anyway.
Kittens are sleeping beyond the monitor.
The motherboard's alive. Anyway, moving on. So let's see what you guys are saying in the comments about this.
Deathstroke.
Oh, there's the off button. I knew there'd be an off button somewhere. Deathstroke, how you doing, Deathstroke? What's the smallest PSU you'd use on an RX 7600? Probably 500 watt, 550. If it's a gold rated, you could probably get away with 500. Depends more so really on what the rest of the system is. Because obviously if you've got like a low end 65 watt AMD part, you're going to be using probably 80 watts most. So the 7600 I think pulls some of the reason, right? Is it 200 watts? Just under 200 watts, 175 or something. So yeah, you're going to have plenty of room there. If you add on like 100 watts for your motherboard and all the peripherals, then you're probably going to be absolutely fine. But then if you're getting a processor which is going to be like a 95 watt part, which is then going to probably boost to like 150, 140, something like that, then it changes the outlook altogether. Ricardo says, only one con, the plate's behind, except that, great case. Thank you, Ricardo. Dave Winner says, Deathstroke depends on the CPU, but 650 is a bare min on most builds these days. I would probably go a little bit lower, to be honest with you. David is a very knowledgeable individual, and he's probably erring on the side of caution and longevity. Whereas I'm looking at it more from a cheapskate area. Rick H says, I'm still using my Ryzen 5 1600 AF on my testbed. That was a great chip, 1600 AF. Those were good times, weren't they? The 1600 AF was on the market. You had the RX 5800 and 4800, RX 580 and 480 on the market. What we NVIDIA probably still on the 20 series, so 2060. 2070s, those were about, they were good times. 1070s possibly as well, 1060s. Good old stuff. Mark Barry says, I'm thinking of repasting my old 1070 thermal pads. Look like they are seeping a bit of fluid, so have to give that a go. I actually need to do the thermal pads. I bought the Radeon RX 6800, the XFX one, the 319 Swift edition, and I know it's normal, but I don't like it. But the hotspot temperature gets up to 89 degrees, which I'm not overly keen on. So I'm tempted to have a look and see whether it's a thermal pad thing, whether it's a heat paste thing, or whether it needs some sort of shims or something in there. I'm not entirely sure. But I do need to definitely have a look at it, I think. Anyway, back to the case. So, other cool features. It has a removable full-length filter on the bottom. Unfortunately, they've done it in a particularly awkward way. So, rather than being like pull out from the front or from the side, you have to pull it out from the back, so to speak. So, if you grab this, there is actually a completely full-length filter, which is actually a really nice thing to see, especially on a slightly more budget-orientated case. And you can, if you want to, to get a little bit more airflow in, you can remove the hard disk tray, which is in here, or the hard drive. I just lost the connection. Oh. There's something not right with this fan on the back. Steve. Yeah, cable management is it's actually pretty decent on there. There's not really much problem. That you've got rubberized grommets around the top and the sides, not on the bottom. But yeah, cable management, you've got a reasonable amount of depth there. There is approximately at its deepest point, getting on for about 20, 25 mil, maybe slightly more. If you take it, actually, that's to that limit, isn't it? So to the actual back panel is going to be about, yeah, about 25 mil, which for those of you living elsewhere is an inch, roughly. So you've got about an inch room for cable management in the widest parts. Where it falls apart a little bit is where you've got these trays here, so that's going to give you, take away some of that. And actually, if we have a look at the distance between that, yeah, looking about 20 at the smaller areas where there's indentations, about 20 mil. So even if you've got a slightly more chunky power supply, you shouldn't find too much problem there. Let's have a look at the bottom. Said the vicar. Yes. Ooh, nearly lost it. Right, there's that out of the way. Let's have a look on the bottom. So as you can see, full length filter, decent foam feet, nice big size feet as well. Getting lifted up so you can gain access to that bit. And the top section, removable magnetic filter as you'd expect. Plenty of room out there for a 360mm radiator, or possibly, yeah, it's going to be 3 120s or 2 140s. I don't think you get any more than that in there. You've got a bit of offset option there as well. Buttons, this has got to be one of the better layouts. So you've got the LED button at the back, power and reset up front with your 2 hard drive and power activity, all that stuff. Separate jacks for headset and microphone, and 2 USB 2s and a USB 3. So yeah, overall, I think actually for the money, it's hard to fault it too much. I am probably being overly critical of the fans and the controller, but I only do it because I want them to improve and do better. But in terms of, like, you think what you get for around about £50 a few years back, it probably wouldn't have been particularly good. And I still remember back to the old days when we first started doing reviews, some of those Sahara cases that we'd get in, and they had a little bit of RGB, and they had that same sort of custom RGB controller that didn't work with anything else, and they were a little bit flimsy. They were okay, and it was very telling of the time on the market. But yeah, things have moved on considerably, and this is, yeah, there's a little bit of flex to it, but not a great deal. Like I said originally with the KZ-V, it's a great case. There's a few things that I didn't like, such as the controller, possibly the fans to some extent, and obviously the glass front was a somewhat of a no-no. But having said that now, I'm kind of at the point where I sort of like the glass element on the front. And I think, I don't know, what do you guys think, and girls? I actually quite like glass-fronted PC cases now. And I think that's how much the market has changed. It's kind of, mesh is good and it's fine, but I think to some extent it's also had its day a little bit, unless it's done in a particularly stylish or functional way. This actually is quite interesting because you've got that little bit of detailing there where it kind of changes shape there. And can we take that front panel off without destroying things? I doubt if we can. Is it screwed in? Yes, there is a screw hole in it. So the front panel doesn't come off particularly easily from the looks of it. So in order to get access to the bottom, if you did want to put larger fans in, you are going to have to undo some screws to remove that in its entirety. But I think for me, I'd probably, I don't know, depends what sort of system you're putting in here. If you're just doing a cheap flip system, these are going to be absolutely fine. if you're doing something a bit more high end, I would be tempted to take the fans out and put in some either 120s. 3 120s up front would look actually quite interesting, because you'd have like 2.5 on show with a little bit tucked down underneath there. A little bit of the element of secrecy for the last fan, what's going on. I'm living in a dream world, aren't I? Now, before I started this, I had a lot of ideas and plans of what I was actually going to do with this particular case. And I was thinking, I've got a Ryzen 5 5600 and a B550 motherboard. The 5600 processor was donated to us very kindly, so thank you very much. Oh God, Andy, wasn't it? I keep on forgetting names. It's terrible. Yeah. Faces I'm really good with. Names I'm getting worse at. But yeah, it was Andy who sent that, so much appreciated for that. And that was going to be what this was going to be. So I was going to do a B550 build in this with the Ryzen 5 5600 and possibly an RX 6600. So that sort of level of system in here I think would work really nicely. But I'm still unsure whether or not that's actually slightly too high end for the fan setup. But it isn't the end of the world, because we can always put in a different set of fans, like I said earlier, which, I don't know, clearly it's going to add to the price and the complexity and stuff, but I'd like to do PCs where if I'm going to sell them and flip them on, that it's going to be like very limited blowback, if any, because I don't really have the time for that sort of stuff. And what am I doing here? That goes there. I'm doing this from completely the wrong angle, so forgive me.
Not your fault.
It's never my fault. Right. So there's clearly a logical order to this. So take off the back one here before you put the other one on. Otherwise you can't get it back on. Again, I'd probably be tempted with this. I would probably leave these out. And maybe even just put some black Fablon or like sticky back plastic over the glass in the back just to cover up everything. I'm not overly keen on this. But in saying that, how often do you look at the back of your PC? It's not a very common thing. If you're somebody who messes around with your PC a lot and does loads of changes and tweaks and stuff, it's probably a bit more hassle than you'd want. I like a PC to be very simple and easy to access. So if you ever need to do anything, it's just all there. Which is where I'm a little bit concerned, because we do have to do some reviews soon on the kind of the Project Zero style cases, which I've got some coming from MSI and from Asus, Thermaltake, and someone else. I can't think of the other one is. But there's a lot of Project Zero-ness going on. So it is going to be one of those kind of things that happens in the market for a little while. Will it stay? Will it go? I don't know. I think it's going to be very much like the Thermaltake CTE setup, which I'm still not... I am convinced that it works, and I understand how it works, but I just don't know whether it's for me or not. The jury is still very much out on that. I think it's more of a space thing. I think for the American people, or builders, viewers, or anyone who lives in a larger house, I think it's an obvious thing to do. Just get a CTE case, because there's a lot of benefits there. But for probably a decent proportion of the PC community, where we're kind of tucked away into little rooms and cubby holes or under the stairs or something, it's a bit of a different situation altogether. Let me know what you think, and I will read your questions and comments very shortly. Ugly Bob says, "You've broke it, I'm telling." What did I break? Probably something. Rick H says, I really like my A320 with Athlon 2200 GE. What a fun little build. I miss those. I really do. I was thinking about this earlier before we started the stream and before I lost my tea. There it is. I was thinking how much I actually used to love doing those really sort of low-end budget PCs and just throwing them together. They were such fun. And actually, I'm still struggling, literally struggling, to sell the PC I built, the Intel one with the Intel Arc graphics card. It's been on Facebook Marketplace now for, it's got to be 3 weeks. It might even be longer.
It went on weird to start with, Mike.
It went weird to start with, so there was like a week or so's delay, maybe 2 weeks delay for it to actually get listed properly. And it says it's had about 400 and something odd clicks. So it's not like people aren't seeing it. And I have had a few stupid offers. Like, I put it on originally for, I think when we discussed it before, I quoted it up as being the best part of like £1,000 worth if you bought everything brand new. And someone said put it on for 900 or 950 and see what you get offered. So I did start off with that. I put it on for £1,000 jokingly to start with to see if anyone would even contemplate it. And that was when it wasn't listed properly. Then I dropped it down to 950. I think it's gone down to 9 now. Maybe I've even dropped it to 8. I can't remember what it was now, but at the moment I'm pretty sure it's on for about 8 or 850 at the moment. And still, basically, someone off said, "Oh, I'll give you 600 for it." It's like, seriously? The motherboard, the processor, and the RAM on their own cost more than that. Not to mention the water cooling, the nice case, the excellent power supply, the really nice fans. Like, it's a proper decent build. It's not like a cheap crap thing that you get from like some manufacturer online. It's the real deal. A really nice PC. Well, I guess some people just don't understand, do they? They just don't understand the value. And I guess that's the thing. It is one of those things. It is somewhat. Yeah, it's only ever worth what someone is prepared to pay. And if they're not prepared to pay it, then you're going to have to sit on it for a bit. Which, to be completely honest with you, I am absolutely happy to do. Because other than it taking up room, if it sits there, realistically, the way the world is going at the moment, because everything is pretty much like FUBAR, everything's getting more expensive. Whereas normally we'd see prices dropping. You're seeing SSD prices going through the roof. RAM has started to increase more. Everything's starting to cost more money. So the longer I hold on to it, the more it's going to be worth, realistically. As long as the technology doesn't outdate quicker than the inflationary rate. But then, having said that, if I sell it at those higher inflationary rate costs, I've still got to replace it with things which are going to cost me more to buy. So it's kind.
Do people want a PC overheating or
yeah,
heating their house?
that is it. That is true. William Bodie says, question, did you write that in your ad? Oh, what, that I quite happy to keep hold of it? I can't remember. Ladios says, people are broke from December. I think that is a very big contributing factor. And it is. I'm very, very aware of the financial situation going on in the world at the moment. We're literally at the point still where we don't have lights on until it literally gets like dark. We don't put our central heating on because we have the wood burner going, so to save money. So it isn't lost on us at all. And we live out of this room, basically. Although, if the taxman asks, we use this room for work, mostly. To be fair, everything's bloody work from the time we wake up, really. But, anyway. So, I'm just putting the motherboard's screws in here. Oh, great. You did it. You gained another hour towards your stand goal. I'm clearly not standing. Apple just does it better. Sorry, Apple fanboys. Nick Barnes says, try taking the advert down and restore in 2 weeks, but add on £100. I'll have to see if I can find the advert, and I'll show you what's... I can't remember what it's on. Have you got my Facebook on there, Kath?
I can't really get to it very easily.
Right.
I have, but it's in Shop Smart.
I've deliberately not signed into Facebook on the streaming PC to keep it as cleanish as possible.
But it's like, they want you to
Who's
do the
that?
meta center thing, don't they? So, if I come out of it, it's hard to get back in without going through the tangled rubbish they want me to use. Come on, Flame.
Letter, I have loads of devices of USB-C, even my soldering iron. Oh. A letter doesn't have anything that uses USB-C. I am finding that more and more things are on USB-C, like the microphones, the wireless mics, they're all USB Type-C. My head torch, USB-C. My pocket warmer, USB-C. I think what else I've got. Microphones, I've got loads of them which are USB-C. It is starting to slowly change over. It's taking its time about it though. One more to go. Rick H says, sorry, don't take less than 900, Mike. I would. I'm kind of lucky that some of the stuff that's in there, like the power supply, the case. I think what else is there? I think it's the power supply and the case, and possibly the CPU cooler. That I didn't actually have to stump up cash for, so those were given to me for reviews. So they are kind of a weird thing, whereas they don't really have a value as such because I've not paid for them, but they have a value as in they have their own value, but they're not an asset as such. So potentially those are, well, I was looking at the price on the wall there. So the case is like 80 quid, the power supply is best part of 100, and the CPU cooler arguably, I don't know, 40, 50 quid or whatever. So it's a good 180, about 250 quid worth of stuff on there, which I could probably knock off the price. So I could take that £1,000 or the £900 down to like maybe 750-ish, 700 quid. 700 quid and I get to build a new PC really, so I'm not that bothered really. But it means I'm giving away stuff, which I don't necessarily want to do. Yes, go.
Corner Cook asks what we building today.
What are we building today? We are building absolutely nothing. Because it takes me long enough to talk about things, let me build them.
And then Mark Berry says, someone was telling me the other day, if you're self-employed, HMRC want you to pay tax in advance.
This is very true.
WTF, lol.
Yeah, that is, for those, I don't know if this happens in other places around the world, but if you're a self-employed person, because His Majesty's Customs and Revenue basically think you're a thief or a liar or a cheat or a scumbag, they want you to pay half of next year's tax in advance
Of what they estimate.
of what they think you're going to pay.
Earn,
sorry, yeah. So they look at what you've done in your tax return for the year. They then guesstimate that you're going to do the same again next year. In theory, you'll probably do the same or better. That's the theory. Rarely the case. But so say for instance you earn, let's think of any,
make it round and easy.
if you do it if you say tax is roughly a third of what you earn. So if you say you earn £30,000, that is your profit at the end of the year. If you take away your income versus your expenditure, leaves you with 30,000 for argument's sake. So a third of that is going to be £10,000. So HMRC will want £10,000 plus £5,000 for next year. So you're kind of, the first year of paying tax is awful. You can defer the payment and split it up into more manageable chunks. But it gets to the point where it's really confusing. So in
We do
theory,
wanna give
if
them
you're a taxpayer and you're paying tax like from day one, you're already, that first year, you're already 6 months in advance. So at some point when you either retire, die or whatever, and you say, well, I'm not paying tax anymore because I'm not earning money,
If you die, I don't
they
expect
should
them
give
to
you
bother.
a refund or you'll be in credit. But it never actually shows as being in credit in your account. It always shows that you've made a prepayment on next year. So it's a very bizarre thing.
And because we don't want them to have it any earlier than they have to, we didn't pay it
Yeah.
until the last minute.
We
Mike forgot to do, and then they
I-
charged us
yeah.
interest on money we didn't actually really owe.
So yeah, that was very, very pain in the ass. So yeah, I'm not sure.
70p a day.
I'm not sure if you heard that then, what Kath said, but yeah, we didn't want the taxman having our money any earlier than possible. So we thought, right, we'll leave it and we'll pay up on the very last opportunity. Of course, being that was like January,
31st,
the
I think, on it.
I think it's the 1st or something. It was sometime in January, 15th, I think it was.
I think
Some
it's 31st.
whatever it was, but there was a day where you had to pay
One
the
in-
money
in
by.
July, actually.
You pay it every 6 months. So you pay like 6 months in January
We
or
haven't done it
6
recently,
months in
have we?
June. No.
So I think it must have been July.
Anyway, so we basically held on to it and forgot. And they didn't send us a warning, so then they charged us extra for paying late on money which we hadn't earned.
So it's like 67p a day, but yeah, my tax rebate, they
Yeah.
kept for about 4 years.
The tax system
They
in the
didn't
UK
send me any
is
interest.
horrific. It really is. It's good. Being self-employed is good because there are some things which you can claim for, which if you're pay as you earn for a company, that obviously you're not going to get that luxury. So things like cartons of milk, tea, coffee, sugar, you can claim some of that back because you're working from home. So obviously you're going to have a drink while you're at home.
Well, even if you weren't at home, you would still claim that, wouldn't you?
Even if you went to visit a client, you had to drive somewhere, you can claim fuel costs and stuff like that, a certain amount of money per mile. There's things you can do, like we claim some of our electricity bill, we claim some of our gas bill, we claim some of our broadband bill because predominantly we're using the internet for streaming purposes, creating videos, uploading, researching, all that kind of stuff, answering emails. It's one of those things that it's a business expense. And if we didn't have the business, we would have a considerably slower and cheaper internet. So there are some things you can definitely claim for, which do make it a little bit better for the self-employed person. But if you don't know what you can claim for, then potentially you are paying way too much tax because you're not claiming for things which are bona fide things. But then also you get the people who absolutely take the mickey out of it and they'll claim everything. Like, I think there's some people who claimed toiletries, like aftershave, deodorant, all that kind of stuff, even though they're working from home. Because they have to be clean and tidy for work, for having Zoom calls and stuff. And it's like, well, who's going to smell you on a Zoom call? But people will try and do these crazy things to try and get out of paying tax. I understand it, but it's, you know what I'm saying. It's a strange setup. Can you move the cats a minute?
Oh, yeah.
Go on.
Be back on in a minute.
I'll answer your questions shortly.
That box was going to put away years ago.
I was going to put this away so I can actually see the desk. And Charles had a question there, I think. Ugly Bob says, the stuff you can claim for as a self-employed person or contractor is just silly sometimes. It is a truly crazy system. It really is. Like I've always said from day one that we are going to be as legit as we possibly can be within the the remit of our own knowledge. So you read the tax forms and what you can claim for and whatever, and you do it sensibly, because obviously you don't want to intentionally diddle anyone. As much as you don't want to pay tax, you understand that it is a requirement as such, even though that in itself is debatable, but that's a story for another day.
Not on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely not on YouTube. Yeah, so I don't particularly fancy going to prison or getting fined, so I do things to the best of my knowledge, and I do things fairly and squarely. So if I buy and sell a PC, I always do a receipt. Kath prints it out, it goes into the book, and we then put it down on our tax return that we have sold a PC, and this is the money we've made from it, etc, etc. Whereas a lot of people probably sell stuff on eBay and Facebook Marketplace and don't say a word. Whereas we do, because I'd be terrible at lying about it, and I probably wouldn't remember. Right, there you go. You can have your bed back now.
Get back up now, mate.
This is where I find out I've missed something. Where did my keyboard go? So, yeah, that's where we're at with it. So Christ, that heater's going a bit much, isn't it?
Is it? It's because we've moved it, mate.
It's 22 degrees and climbing. 22.1. Where was I? Yeah, so I try and do things as honest as I can. And I put in there, basically there's receipts for everything.
You're going to answer Charles.
Charles, where is that? I hooked to an external 4K, but the free Cyberlink won't play 4K. VLC won't work without a questionable download. Is there a safe and free app for 4K optical discs on PC? That is a very good question, Mr. Ballard. I'm not entirely sure. The person to ask for that would be Matthew Day if he's still in the chat, because he is very much still on the optical discs side of things.
Join our Discord.
I've got a sneaking suspicion.
Speak to Matthew.
Yeah, join the Discord and speak to Matthew if he's not in the chat. Links are in the video thing. Oh, chats, that's the one. Did that actually work?
You've spammed it, I bet now.
Oh yeah, I have spammed it. Sorry about that. There used to be, I'm not sure if you can use, there used to be a free Microsoft plugin for HEVC content, which used to be able to get free. I actually did a video on it ages ago. So if you do a search on Mike's Unboxing for HEVC plugin or free HEVC, you should find the video.
And then Nick Barnes.
Bloody hell. There we go. Where do we get to? Nick Barnes. Does that mean no offshore accounts? Yeah, no, there's no offshore accounts. There's actually not even we don't even have a business account as such. We've got a couple of different accounts, so whenever we get any income, CAF automatically takes off a third, I think it is, or a quarter. Is it a third or quarter?
I usually just over a third to cover.
Just over a third, yeah. Put it in the tax account, and hopefully, in theory, that should, at the end of the year, be enough.
Did you do Nick Barnes, sorry, about
Yeah.
Boya mics?
Oh no, that was ages ago, wasn't it?
That was up there, yeah.
Oh right. Nick Barnes, have you reviewed the Boya BY-V20 USB-C wireless mics before? They would be much better than a mic on webcam in Zoom calls. We sit quite a distance away in Zoom calls. No, I've not seen those USB-C wireless mics. No, I have not seen those. I will... Well, we haven't been in contact with Boya for a long time. I think the last time was for... I think it was one of the other wireless mics that we've got. And yeah, not heard much from them. The thing is with Boya, it's a weird company because they're based in China, or Taiwan, or... let's not go down that route. They're based over there somewhere, and quite often emails get blocked. So you get an email, and then they send another email from like some really sort of skanky Gmail account. You're like, come on, this is like a pretty big company. Why are you sending on a Gmail account? And the thing is because the way that it works over in those areas is that they're not officially allowed to kind of do what they're doing in terms of promotion. So they have to do it kind of outside of their own email system. So it looks like they're not doing it, if that makes any sense. Letter says, I haven't had to pay any taxes for about 11 years. I like it that way. That's pretty cool. Is that federal and state or just state taxes? So I thought you had to pay federal taxes regardless.
But if you earn a certain amount, I haven't paid tax for years. So I don't earn anything.
True. Patrick LaBelle says, hello, just wanted to say hello. I've got to get ready for work tonight, so I hope the stream will be good. Going to listen to it while working. Cheers, Patrick. Hope you have a good shift. JB's Arcade Mod says, HMRC representatives waiting for you in heaven when you die, trying to get more tax out of you. It's very true. Dutch Jan says, that's nothing compared with the Dutch tax authorities. Just look at the Dutch benefits scandal. I haven't heard about that. I'll have to have a very quick look into that at some point and see what's going on. One mistake on the form and you were considered a fraudster and have to pay everything back. Crap. Mark Barry says, anyone remember the MP that claimed expenses for a moat and a drawbridge? I do recall that. I can't remember the MP's name, but I do remember that. David Andrews says, I got a tax audit note 4 years ago for 2008 to 2010 tax years. I hadn't claimed some deductions and got an extra refund. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we probably don't claim as much as we should do. Like, considering on a normal day, I probably start answering YouTube questions somewhere around 10 o'clock-ish. 10 or 11, and generally most days I'm still working on videos or answering questions or in the Discord doing tech support or whatever, probably until at least midnight or thereabouts.
Can you think of all the free work I put in? If I wasn't doing that, it would be even longer hours for you, really.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
So almost, apart from when I'm either vacuuming, taking a shower or a dump, or briefly getting some shopping in the day, I am sat in front of the computer kind of working. Now, it's not obviously flat out all the time, as you'd be in some other jobs, but it's effectively working. I'm still kind of attached to it. So I would argue that I'd probably do, there's a good 10 to 12 hours a day. Maybe more, sometimes. And it's very rare. I can't remember the last time we actually had a day off. I think we came...
Christmas Day, I suppose, but...
Not even Christmas Day, because I'm still answering questions and doing stuff on that. And keeping an eye on it. I think the only day really... I think it was not last year, the year before, when we had the 40°C weather. And there was one day where it just seemed quite unbearable. So we didn't do a great deal. And I probably had, took half the day out, just because it was just literally too hot.
But you're still on Discord. That's
Yeah.
the same thing, isn't it?
So, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Mark Berry says, this is very political, so trigger warning. But ultimately very true. Mark Berry says, if Labour get in, watch the tax increase. I think realistically, regardless of which party gets in at the next general election, which is looking like it's going to be April, May of this year, I would... Well, the net zero thing is going to cost us, regardless. So we're going to be feeling it at the petrol pumps, road tax duty, bus fees, coach, electric, gas, recycling. All of that stuff is going to go up, regardless. It's just how quickly and how much.
Gardening, probably.
Here, for people outside of the UK who are watching this and they don't know the kind of the political system here, traditionally, Labour are...
It's the same all around the world, isn't it?
They kind of are more tax heavy, and they like to take in a lot of tax and then try and spread it out to those more, I wouldn't say deserving, that's probably the wrong word, but they try to help people out that are in the kind of more poverty bound areas in society, and to help to pay for things like the NHS and all those kinds of things, which they kind of don't, because all of the systems have got completely out of control. So taxation is just basically a massive money pit. And of course we've got the global the worldwide conflicts going on, which is a massive resource drain on that tax pot. So anyway, we won't go too far into that. Whereas the Tory government or Conservatives generally tend to be taxing less of the businesses and the individuals, sometimes at the detriment of the benefit society, for want of a better word. It's not as clear cut as that, but essentially, if you vote Labour, you're going to pay more taxes. So if you're a business owner or you're self-employed, you'd never want to vote Labour because it's just going to kill you financially. Whereas if you're like in higher education, on benefits, or in a lower price class of earnings, like you don't earn a lot, then you want to vote Labour because it's in your best interests. It's a weird thing. It's a very polarising thing here in the UK. And realistically, there isn't one party which is good for everybody. There's like one party is good for some, one party is good for another. So
they all do the same, don't they?
they're all crap, realistically, and it's all just like.
Have you ever noticed anything they say they're going
Do I want a black eye on my left eye or do I want it on my right eye? Doesn't really matter. It's just which eye do you prefer. It's that kind of thing. So it's a very bizarre thing. But certainly we've had the Conservative or Tory party in power in the UK for the best part of 8 years now, I think, if not more. And the last time that we had a Labour government, I think, was 2000... Well, that I can remember was 2008. Roughly? No. 2010. I think it's I think we're in the third consecutive Conservative government at the moment. But anyway, it goes a cycle. So you get a couple of years of Labour, then everyone's like, oh my god, I can't cope with these taxes anymore. Conservatives get in, then the taxes don't really change. They drop slightly, if anything, then creep back up, and then everyone's like, oh, we need to do something about this. You vote Labour, and then yeah, it's just a rotation. Same faces, just a rotation. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens in the coming months of this year. The general election, it's a pointless thing. It really is. But there's still a lot of people that are very much in the, like, probably my generation and older, probably have I won't say a deeper understanding, but we've seen the rotation happen, so you kind of understand how it all works. Whereas the younger generation are probably a little bit more idealistic and a little bit more optimistic, possibly as well. So they think that by voting, they're going to vote for change when you kind of don't, whichever way you do. And the same for America, whether it's the Democrats, whether it's Republicans, it basically doesn't matter. It's still the same shit, just a different day. Rick H says, taxation is theft. I believe you. Charles Ballard says, I'm American. If I get guns...
Mexican, isn't it?
If I get guns, can I not pay taxes? Just asking. No intent. Possibly, I don't know. David Underhill says, net zero. Political talk for your end-of-year surplus funds. Yep. JB says the UK is becoming an expensive place to live now. It is. Stuart Cleary, if he's in a little bit later, he will talk about it. He lives in Ireland, or Northern Ireland, I believe it is. Is it Northern Ireland or Ireland? I can't remember. One of the two. But he's in the Emerald Isles, and yeah, they are getting screwed over there royally. Mark Berry says 2010. Thank you, Mark. I thought it was 2010 because 2010, the Labour government and Conservative thing was very much a trigger point for me personally. At the time, there was a thing going on. So the BBC here in the UK is a very politically it's a hot potato. So the BBC is traditionally a more left-leaning organisation, even though it's supposed to be completely diverse of that because it's publicly funded, so it shouldn't have any bias. The Conservative government were trying to split up the BBC, or basically kick their ass a bit. And it got to the point, I'm trying to remember exactly, but there was some legislation that they're trying to write in on the Labour side, and there was some legislation that the Conservatives wanted to do. So if the Conservative government got in, I think I'm right in saying this, then they would split the BBC up so that some programmes would be done in London, some would be done in Manchester, some in Bristol, some in Wales, and they'd move it around. So drama would be in Wales, news and media would be in Manchester, natural history would be in Bristol. They basically split it up a bit. I think children's stuff was going off to Scotland. It was just this big idea to try and take the money out of London and distribute it to the different areas. And it got to the point where if the government had won, the Labour government were the ones who wanted to change it, to distribute the money. And they passed through the legislation on the day before they lost the election so that the BBC would get split up. So on that day, I went from being a relatively happy person living and working in Bristol on a TV programme, which was about 7 miles away from my house, to that programme being moved into another country, about 40 to 50 miles away. So literally on like that, they put the legislation through. I think it was like a couple of minutes to midnight, just before the election. And it was horrendous. So yeah, we found out the next day, government got in. So we thought we were all safe, but it turns out the legislation had been signed prior to the election winning, or the like official cut-off point, or whatever it was. So yeah, basically we got screwed and we had to move to Cardiff. Well, we didn't move, but our job moved to Cardiff to put some money over into Wales, which I guess seemed like a good idea for them, but less good for us in Bristol. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, the government's it's a funny old thing. And it's going to be interesting to see how it turns around into PC pricing, because already, I've said it already, but M.2 drives starting to get pretty pricey again. SATA drives, the 2.5-inch SATA drives, SSDs, are now more expensive than M.2s, which for a long time they were quite on parity. And in some instances, the SATA-based drives, the SSDs, were actually cheaper because they're effectively slower. But it's now got to the point where there is quite a big difference. And actually, the SATA SSDs now have become pretty expensive. So just before Christmas, around about sort of Black Friday time, typical sales time, we were picking up 1 terabyte drives for around about £33 to £35 for some of the more budget orientated boards. And even things like the Kioxia Xperia, is it? Can't think what it was. The Kioxia drive, that was about 35 quid, which was pretty decent. Whereas now that same drive is the best part of 60. So we're definitely seeing some increases. Obviously, graphics cards, we're seeing that mid-range gradually head towards the top tier pricing. Motherboards seem to be slowly drifting up in price. A couple of little discounts here and there, but mostly on the upward trend. Power supplies have been trending upwards for the last 4 months at least. So power supplies are becoming increasingly more expensive. Memory is going up. I think pretty much everything is on the increase in terms of PC pricing, which again is why I think I'm struggling to sell that other PC, because it's reasonably high end and the parts have kept their value, but people don't want to spend that sort of money, especially when you can pick up maybe an old B450 motherboard brand new for like 50-60 quid, a 5600 processor for just over 100 maybe, DDR4, you can still pick that not as cheap as it was, but still quite cost effective for what it is, and get some bargains on that every now and then. DDR4 more so because it's slightly being phased out. So there is becoming like a really big rift in between the kind of the more budget entry level systems to the mid-range systems, and then you've got even crazier gap between the mid-range and the high end. So a basic entry level gaming PC, you're looking £500 to £600.
Didn't we have that before when you were buying parts?
Yeah.
And if you did expensive ones, they never sold. And the
Yeah.
cheap ones always did.
Always expensive PCs don't
Even
sell.
before all this.
So entry level, mid range, well, yeah, sort of low entry level, £500 to £600. Mid range PC, 900 to 1,000. High end PC, 1,500 to £2,500. It seems to be jacking up. It used to be like a high end PC was £1,000, a mid range was like 5 to 6, and at entry levels like 2 to 3. And it seems like that's really changed massively. Everything getting more expensive, which is very sad, but it happens. So what can you do? Let's have a look through your chat. David says SATA M.2 drives are rarer than rocking horse poop now. Yeah, they are. I haven't seen a SATA M.2 drive in a long time. Used to get them every now and then in a laptop, but it's very, very rare, which is a shame because I actually got an Arco M.2 SSD enclosure up there, which is only for M.2 SATA drives. So I could do with a SATA drive to put in there really to use it. But I'm not going to buy one at extortionate prices just so I can use it. Ashley Strachan says, was going to upgrade my spare M.2 1TB to a 4TB and lose mechanical. Are the SATA to M.2 any good? Seems like a waste to dump the old M.2. Yeah. Well, if your old M.2 1TB, have you not got 2 slots on your motherboard? But yeah, if not, you can put it into a USB or convert it. Realistically, when it comes to SSDs, like between a SATA-based M.2 and a reasonable PCI Express one, in reality, game loading times and actually Windows use isn't going to seem much different. There's so many other little overheads in the system which kind of take their toll on the system, so you don't notice it as much. You'll be okay. JB's Arcade Moss says, yeah, top end PC now like 2.5K. It's getting worse. David Underhill says, Mike, that is why I'm thinking of buying those Gigabyte B550 motherboards for only $109. Cheapest MSI motherboard is $159 at present. Yeah, I'm sure that things are going to get more expensive. Traditionally, you get to the point where you have that sort of sales period after Christmas. January, February, kind of things tend to slope upwards a little bit. Then manufacturers realise that they're holding on to inventory because people don't want to part with the money. So April, May, you get the sales. Of course, you get the Easter sales as well. And then you get like the spring sales. Going into May, you get a few sales every now and then for the bank holidays, at least for here in the UK. But then really it's all kind of uphill pricing up until you get to like the back to school era. So mid-August, you get some sales happening. And then, of course, after August, September, then you get the silly season. So October, you get the Halloween sales. Then you get the November the 5th, so the Fire at Night sales. Then you go into Black Friday. Then you go into Christmas. And then the New Year sales. And the whole thing loops and repeats again. So it's a bit of a weird thing. Viali100 says, good evening, Mike Gaff. And oh, how you doing, Viali? And Golf Sierra Hotel says, hello all, how you doing? Nice. I was looking at replacing hard drives with SSDs, but now, not that the price has shot up, going to wait a bit. I think it does make a lot of sense to replace your mechanical drives with M.2s or 2.5-inch SATAs if you can, in terms of the overall system latency, because spin-in drives still have that lag, and because they're not cached as well, if you're on your Windows computer and you may be trying to access a file which is in another drive, like a mechanical drive, there's always that little blip where you're waiting for the drive to spin up and find the data. The access time isn't great. So you do find that by going to totally solid state storage, it is a faster and more responsive system in general. I've actually noticed as well, hey, that's the point, where's O'Reilly tonight? O'Reilly's not been very well the last few days. So yeah, I've not seen O'Reilly. being very quiet, not very well. I think his parents aren't very well either, so he's probably feeling a little bit down in the dumps. Hopefully you're alright, O'Reilly. What was I going to say? What's the train of thought there? Oh, yeah. I've been doing some testing with the open source response time testing tool and actually doing some fine tuning on my monitor on my desk. And I was actually surprised how much more, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, snappy, that you can make Windows feel just by altering the settings of your monitor, which I didn't think would be as noticeable as it is, but it does seem definitely more noticeable. So most of you know that, or maybe you don't actually, that most monitors have a, where's my adjuster? There. Most monitors have an adjuster. No, they don't. My seat has the adjuster. Most monitors have an adjustment called overdrive. So if you go into your monitor, click on the menu button, you'll probably find there's a thing called overdrive. And what this will do is it will basically overdrive the pixels to make them respond faster. Now, some monitors handle it badly, and then you get what they call overshoot. So then you get a pixel overshooting what the value is supposed to be at that time. So whether it's supposed to be a certain RGB value, it will actually light up the wrong value. So then you get like a blur effect, or you get like an inverse ghosting, which looks awful as well. But if you've got a monitor which handles overdrive nicely or plays well with it, it actually does make a pretty big difference to your actual enjoyment and responsiveness. Now my monitor is a 4K 60Hz panel, so it's pretty slow anyway. You're looking at, I think it's like 16 milliseconds is what it's kind of, that frequency should be. And it's a little bit faster than that, so they've said that it should be around about 4 milliseconds. So if you take into consideration the system's own latency, which is going to be another sort of, I don't know, 3-4 milliseconds for the USB, the GPU bus, all that kind of stuff, that all has latency. So you should be looking at somewhere around about 8 milliseconds for that monitor. And in testing, that's exactly what it did. Turning on the overdrive to extreme, actually half that from 8 milliseconds down to 4 milliseconds, and it feels like a completely different monitor. It's really nice. And I've done some testing with the open source response time tool and kind of tuned it. So you quite often you make these settings and you change stuff on your monitor and you're like, is this just like the placebo effect where you've turned on a setting so you think it's better? It's so nice to be able to actually test something and validate that what you're doing actually does make a justifiable difference. So I've turned on FreeSync, I've turned on overdrive to the extreme, I've turned off DCR, which is the like a strobing effect that basically just ramps up everything, but I've done the test for that and it makes the latency worse, and the overshoot is all over the place, so it's actually a much worse setting. But with my particular monitor, yeah, turn overdrive up to the max and it basically halves the response time, and it's beautiful. It's really nice. You click on the button, the Windows animations seem to be more in sync with the button presses, and also when I press the mouse button, it now seems a lot more accurate, I suppose you'd say, or more instant. So you press the button, it's like, yes, that has responded quicker. And for gameplay, it's going to be a game changer, because literally it will change the way I play the games. Because normally in like Counter-Strike 2, my response times aren't great anyway. And I thought it was just me being an old fart. But maybe it's down to the fact that the monitor isn't responding as quick as it should do. So giving the other person a unfair advantage, or me a fair disadvantage, whichever way you look at it. So yeah, it's a very eye-opening thing to actually tweak those settings, because most of the time I just get a monitor and it's like, well, I look at it and just adjust the brightness, adjust the contrast, whatever. It's like, yeah, that looks fine. That's it. And I think a lot of people will tend to do that, but actually having the ability to tweak those settings to tune a monitor is brilliant. Now the tool itself isn't cheap, but for me doing reviews on stuff, it's going to make life a lot better. So I will be doing a test run review of my Lenovo monitor, which is on the desk there. That's the Lenovo L2830U, I think, or U30. L28U30? Yeah, I think that's it. Whatever it is, anyway. So I'll be doing a review on that, which I've been meaning to do for ages, but my opinion is only one thing. It's really nice to have some actual proper numbers to back up what I'm actually saying. So I'm actually very excited to do that. Not that it's going to make any difference at all, really, but it just gives me that extra confidence to say, right, this is my experience, and this is the numbers to back up my experience. So yeah, I'm really happy to be able to do that. Hugh Luttrell says, Mike's Unboxing, know anything about the ASRock B650E Tai Chi? Just ran across it yesterday. No, I've not seen that board. I think the Tai Chi Lite is supposed to be really decent and not a million miles off the Tai Chi. Nice. Dutch Jan says, I still have a hard disk drive in my NAS. I think for NAS purposes, there's no point changing to SSDs in NAS at the moment. The price per gigabyte is nowhere near comparable to be able to do that. And also, SSDs aren't really designed for that kind of constant access. I'm pretty sure it actually wears down the NAND quicker in a NAS than it would do anything else, because you're accessing like multiple drives and multiple files a lot of the time, and I don't think that's particularly good for the drives. And if you've got something like surveillance going on your NAS as well, that sort of writing, constant writes to a drive is going to kill it very quickly. Maybe use a SSD for caching in a NAS, but I don't think for the actual drives themselves it makes a particularly good. They make it quick, but anyway.
William Bodie tagged you, but I don't know if you can read that out or not. Oh, let me have Mabes.
David Andrews says, I bought two 2TB silicon power drives for $156 each months ago. Now they're $174. That's quite an increase. Not quite as bad as we have over here, but not great. Ashley says, oh, sorry, my bad. My NVMe 1TB is going, and I was thinking of bunging it into an enclosure just for a spare games drive. I see. Yeah, that'd be fine. Hey, Candy?
Don't even look at her back now.
Firestorm says, fast is better than fastest on my LG. That's interesting. Yeah, it's funny how those overdrive settings can sometimes not be, I suppose, like anything, all silicon differs. And the same is with LEDs as well. All panels are slightly different. So depending on the silicon that you're running the actual controller and also the panel itself, your results will quite often vary quite a bit. Yeah, Letta says there, HDDs are slow but still the best for long-term storage. Yeah, I would agree with that. Less likely to get damaged as well in terms of electrically. Like, obviously an SSD is a solid state, so it doesn't mind getting bumped around, but they can just basically, the controller just go. Viali says, my LG is 165 Hz and overdrive to 180, but don't run OD as it can shorten the life. That's fair enough. William Bodie says, Mike, don't forget the West is fighting China on chip production. I think at the moment the West is fighting pretty much everybody on pretty much every front at the moment, which is probably not helping things. Golf Sierra says, I just installed a GeForce RTX 4070. Good choice. Got it new for a fair price, £510, but had to get rid of GeForce Experience to get it running correctly as it was stuttering like mad. That's very strange. David Andrew says, NAS is about the only place hard disk drive are preferable. RAID would kill an SSD in no time. Yeah, I think that is the case. And super chat from Marco. Thank you, Marco. for your 500 RSDs, which I always forget what those are.
Sorry, I've got Maisie on my lap.
But thank you.
I'm coming.
Much appreciated, Marco. There you go. Have some flashy lights. Strobing light effect warning. A little bit late. Never mind.
That lamp really creaks, doesn't it, when it's...
Yeah, it's the heat, isn't it? William said Davy Jones. Good
They're
stuff.
getting quite calm now, aren't they?
Serbian dinar. Thank you. What's R? What's the R in it for? RSD. Real Serbian diner. Ugly Bob says it's the almighty diner. The only almighty diner I know is Kath when she goes out eating.
Shut up.
The almighty diner is hit the restaurant.
Mike has actually been out.
I have actually been out.
And he might go out again.
Went to the restaurant last week. It was a painful, joyless experience.
Don't be so silly. I've got pictures of you smiling.
€1 is about 117.5 dinar. Thank you. Thank you very much. Firestorm says, have you played Pal World? I haven't. No, I have seen this Pal World thing being talked about in various places. I gather it is Pokemon with guns. Is that an accurate description? I don't know how it plays. Is it like... I'm assuming it's probably going to be like Fortnite. Republic. Thank you, Bob. David Underhill says €1 is the total annual income of some countries. The way things are going, ours won't be far off it. In terms of profit.
On CBD.
Yeah.
Was it good?
Oh yeah, the Pal World. It seemed interesting. I'm not sure. Is it a free game?
Did you see the game Star Trucker?
I haven't seen the game Star Trucker. William Bodie.
It plays like Ark Survival but with Pokemon instead of dinosaurs.
Right. Imagine for a minute that I've not played Ark Survival. Any other... Hugh Luttrell says, commercial took me clear off stream. Sorry about that. They put the bloody... Oh, I bet they've put... I haven't looked at that, actually. When is the... Yeah, because it hasn't mentioned about putting ads on.
It keeps putting them in.
Oh, does it?
Now and again.
Oh.
Yeah, because my chat keeps going off the page.
I did...
It's like, what's going on?
I did a thing. I did a video this week about a security program to clean off basically any virus off your PC. Not quite a one-click experience, but a very, very easy tool that you can use. You can just download a file and essentially you can run whichever bits of it you want to. Like a toolkit almost, but it's a slightly automated toolkit. So I thought I'd run it on my PC to see if there was any nasties on there, and it come back and said my PC was clean. But in the process of doing it, it actually wiped out all of my cookies and saved doodads, all that stuff. So it's been a bit of a pain in the backside, but at least I know it's done a pretty good job.
Patreon's got that already, I think.
Yes, Patreon should have access to that video already.
Think of a nice day in chat.
So yeah, I quite like it because people keep on saying Pal World is like Pokemon on steroids. Now, I've not played Pokemon. I've not played Ark, so I'm still absolutely none the wiser. If you said it was like CS:GO with cute characters, I would understand. Or is it more like a Fortnite type of deal where you've got to build things and craft stuff? Or you have an inventory.
Survival and monster taming game hybrid.
Monster taming? You don't want to tame monsters, you want to kill them. Monsters are generally a bad thing, I've been led to believe by my childhood experiences and the mainstream media.
What have you got stuff on you now? Oh, nothing.
Kenny D says Pal World is not free. I won't be playing that then. Apparently, that's what I was going to say, yeah. Apparently Pal World has become the most successful or the most played game on Steam ever. Like the most concurrent people playing online at any time ever. And it's only been out, I'm guessing, a couple of weeks, if that. David says Doomslayer is like Pokemon with aggressive gameplay. I've not played Doomslayer either. I've got a very, very sheltered gaming experience, to be honest. There's very few games that I've actually played unless they involve either first-person shoot-'ems, racing, or zombies. Those tend to be my go-tos. Or anything that I've got a benchmark. I'll sometimes try and play those, but very rarely does it go as planned. I did flying, yeah. Microsoft Flight Simulator. I actually quite enjoy that. And actually, going back to what I said earlier about the new AMD frame generation technology, I think that's actually going to be really good for those sorts of titles, especially. Obviously, Flight Sim's probably going to be one of those things where people are going to be trying to leverage the comparisons with DL. I really struggle with that name, DLSS3 and frame generation, but it is kind of the same thing. Ugly Bob says, do you have Red Dead Redemption 2? The benchmark on that is amazing. I do have Red Dead Redemption 2, but I disliked playing it immensely, so I don't use it as benchmark, but maybe I should do. Possibly I will reinstall that for benchmarking purposes going forward, actually. It's quite a big install though, isn't it? It's like 120 gigs, I think, something like that. Yeah. JB's Arcade Mod says, I have RDR2, but don't play it. It is a big boy. Games are starting to take up way too much space. Like when you're thinking like 500 or 1 terabyte drives and getting super full. 120 gig plus. That's a lot, and it is a ridiculous amount of space, really. I think the next big thing, if it can be done, would be to have some sort of NAS device or network attached device, not necessarily a NAS specifically, but a NAS that you can have which is fast enough but yet still not crazy expensive, that you can have it somewhere centralized and be able to install all of these games on it as if that drive is natively attached to your computer, like a iSCSI drive, I suppose it would be. I think that's how iSCSI works. They appear to be as a local drive on your computer, especially when it comes to things like updates, because it'd be quite nice to be able to go to like that PC and have the games installed, and that PC or any PC that is on that network to have the ability to have that drive mapped and have all the games there. But then I suppose you'd have a weird thing where if you made any modifications to the game on one computer, that information would then be stored on the other computers as well, which may not synchronize properly. So maybe that's why they don't do it. Maybe that's something that someone like Valve could come up with, like a dedicated Steam cache drive, which was quite inexpensive, but worked with... Oi! Stop chewing the cables. Otis is literally chewing through the power cable for the camera. Swine.
Naughty boy, wasn't it?
JV says, these game developers think that these storage drives grow on trees. It's going to get to the point now where you could almost go back in time and do emulation and download like every single PlayStation 1 game, and that would still not take up as much room as like a single big download like RDR2. No. Yeah. Whatever that was. Meow bang. Wildlife Snapper's in the house. How you doing, Wildlife Snapper? Otis is trying to sabotage the cam. He does. He's a swine. Absolute
Oh,
swine.
he's sweet. He's purring away.
JB's Arcade Mod says, I know people that are into emulation and can get quite a few old games onto a 1 TB SSD lol. Yeah, I think I keep on seeing more and more about emulation these days. And the more I see it, the more I think it's like a very cool thing. Or is it just because of you get to a certain age and you reminisce about old games, and then when you actually do play them, they suck? Maybe it is, maybe not. Wildlife Snapper says, I'm great, Mike, thanks. Hope you are well. Yeah, not doing too bad at all. Very reasonable. So, what was I going to... There's something else I was going to say. I can't think what it was. Yeah, likely the nostalgia makes you feel kind of young again playing those games. It was quite scary, actually. I think it's either this year or next year that Miami Vice is 40 years old. And I think Knight Rider, if anyone out there knows what Knight Rider is, and the classic Trans Am known as Kit, that was started in 1983. And I'm pretty sure the A-Team did as well. That's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying, how old it is. But yet still actually very entertaining television. They were definitely onto something. JB's Arcade Mod says, who remembers the Knight Rider 2008 reboot and Team Knight Rider? Those were dreadful. I think that's the trouble with a lot of these series. It's really hard to revisit something which was so iconic at the time. Very much like games as well. It's like game remakes. And films. Like a typical example, Miami Vice, the film they did in, I think that was 2008 as well, which was basically the same characters, but set with a more modern vibe. It wasn't very good. And it definitely wasn't as good as the series. But, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I still think, actually, for the time it was, I actually didn't watch Miami Vice at all when it first came out. I just wasn't interested. I think I was too young to kind of get the gist of it back then. I was probably still into comics and stuff. But watching it now, I think it's probably one of the best TV shows that there's ever been. In terms of encapsulating basically the time, the period, the music. It's just so well stylized, and it was completely different from anything else which had ever existed before it, and almost after it as well. Lots of things have tried to copy it. Look at movies which have tried to emulate it, like Bad Boys 2, Bad Boys 3, etc., etc. They're trying to be Miami Vice, and I think actually Don Johnson was an incredible actor throughout that series, and I think he's probably an underrated actor as well. JB says, Street Hawk was awesome. I concur on that one. Shame it only had one season. Was Street Hawk only one season? Wow. I thought it went on for longer than that. I quite enjoyed Street Hawk. Come on, everybody who was a kid when Street Hawk came out and had a bike thought they were Street Hawk. Didn't you? Come on. You probably got the little bit of card and a clothes peg and put it on your spokes to make it sound like a motorbike. You did it. Wildlife Snapper says, Flight Simulator has taken up nearly 4 terabytes on my NVMe. That does include marketplace purchases and add-ons, however, but when you consider that, purchasing one airport can take up to 10 gigs, 10 minutes to load. Shit, the bed. That's terrifying. William Bodie says, The Professionals did start in 1977. That was 46 years ago. Mike, how old are you? I'm old enough to be alive at that point. JB says, Crockett's theme still gives me chills. I think Miami Vice is great. They should make... No, they shouldn't. I'm saying they should make Miami Vice again, but I don't think they could ever quite do it justice. Because it was just... yeah, it's just, you watch it and it's like, this is the 80s, the early 80s. And you can, it's quite interesting because the early 80s to the start of the 90s, and it actually stopped filming it stopped airing in 1990. And you can see how music, style, and television in general was a massive change. If you look at the first series, now there's only 4 years between it, but the first series to the last series, the look, the style, everything completely changed. And that was what the 80s was like. It was so fast moving, the 1980s. You started off the 80s going like 81, 82. We're coming out of that kind of almost like a punk era. Then going into the 90s where it was like very much yuppies and almost getting into the point of like indie music being a big thing again. Weird. Anyway. Wildlife Snapper says, still loving Cagney and Lacey. Oh god, that used to be on. I remember seeing some of those, but not a great deal of them. Marco says, Miami Vice, first time I saw Helena Bonham Carter and fell in love. Well, so did Sonny. Until he found out what she did for a living. Well, he knew what she did for a living, but her extracurricular duties, let's say. Skystalker says, I know every show except Street Hawk. Never heard of that. Street Hawk is basically a Knight Rider on a bike. That's probably the easiest way of saying it. It literally is Street Hawk. Literally is Knight Rider on a bike. Much like Airwolf was Knight Rider in a helicopter. Dutch Jan says music in the 80s is still the best ever made. I'll be honest with you, there has been some banging tunes through the years, but for me, I think the 80s was a very, very, very good era in terms of music. It was quite good because you had the fusion between instruments, actual real instruments, and that new wave era coming in with the electronics and stuff. And the blending together of the two. Ugly Bob says, Western Supermare Vice, watch this space. To be fair, if you went down to Western Supermare, the Vice squad would have a lot of work to do. They would be really busy. Mark Berry says, I like the alligator on the boat called Elvis. Yeah, whatever happened to Elvis? He got impounded, didn't he, or something? Elvis didn't last all 5 series, I don't think. Dave Underhill says, re-release the original Miami Vice, but use AI to upgrade the film video quality. I think someone's actually done that. That was a shame as well, because the original Miami Vice, obviously, is the 80s, so it was filmed in 4:3. So it's a little bit spoilt on modern displays. For the best experience, you'd want a rear projection 4:3 screen. That would be great. Nick Barron says, those fashions, quality music, chunky mobile phones can't be replaced. No. And the cars. The hairstyles can be replaced, definitely.
Not yours.
Not mine. Oh dear. Wildlife Snapper says, best thing out of Miami was Dexter. I never watched Dexter. Might have to watch that. Charles Ballard says, there was a Brit show called Star Cops that lasted 1 season. Does anyone remember it? Title theme song by Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues. No. I don't remember that. Star Cops, you remember that?
No,
I've never heard of that.
watch much telly.
In the 80s you would have done more so though.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
Didn't have a telly in my room for years.
Ugly Bob says the 80s was a very diverse era for music. It really was. There were so many influences because you had the early beginnings of like R&B and rap,
Remembers it.
house music. You also had acid house. You'd also, like, rock was big back then, soft and hard rock. Then you had like a lot of power ballads as well, in the 80s. Trying to think.
Benatar?
Yeah.
Was that the 80s? Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you had some like very iconic things happening in the 80s, such as Live Aid. That was like a massive thing. I think Live Aid is still the most watched television event in history, I think. Not too sure. David Under says Elvis ended up as a handbag. No, poor Elvis. I actually, if you watch Miami Vice, play very close attention to Elvis. It's very funny at times. You'd have to watch it to find out why, but it's, yeah, sometimes it's extremely funny. You have to watch it a couple of times. JB says, I remember Space Precinct. That sounds familiar. I can't remember Space Star Cops. Dutch Jan needs help. Because he says, I still think the Ford Sierra Cosworth is a beautiful car. Yeah. Actually, there was, I noticed today, actually locally, there is a C-Reg, so that's 1985, borderline 86, Ford Sierra, and it looked very similar to an XR4x4, which it wasn't because they weren't out then, and it was like £36,000. It was immaculate, but £36,000 for a Sierra. You couldn't give those away back in the 90s.
I hated wearing my dad's.
Viali says Star Trek has always been my favourite. Yeah, Star Wars and Star Trek, I liked both, I would say, arguably equally. Although I think as time has gone on, I think the Star Trek franchise has become much better. And I think the Star Wars franchise has got significantly worse. Whereas, if you look at the early 70s and 80s, and arguably into the 90s, the opposite would have been true.
What was the last car you drove without power steering?
Fiesta 1.6S.
That one had power steering.
The red one didn't.
Pretty sure it did. Because when I
It's got those super thick tyres in it. It was impossible to turn.
Oh no, that was really nice because that was what I was driving at the same time as my dad's car. And
If not, it would have been the one before it then, the 1.4 Sport.
No, I don't think it did have power steering. You're right, but it was so light compared to the Sierra, and I was pregnant in the Sierra, and it was like, oh, so heavy.
Mike Rockburn says, who remembers Automan? Came out in 1983. I remember it, but I don't think I've ever watched it. I couldn't tell you who was in it. Buck Rogers in the 25th century. I liked Arian Gray. I liked Tweaky. I'm not going to say why, but Kath's thinking over there, she's like, don't, Mike, don't. I'm not. But I did enjoy Tweaky very much. What an excellent character. Somewhat annoying, but fun. Yeah, Buck Rogers was... it started off as a great series. First series was excellent. Second series tanked almost immediately. Purely because they got a new producer and director in and they just didn't get on. They wanted to do very different things. And yeah, there was a very political thing going on in the background where basically the production company are trying to do everything in their ability to basically kill the show on purpose, which was nuts. Milch Monster says, hi there, I heard that a new PSU can help where there is coil whine on a GPU. Is that true? Yes, it is. Now, coil whine on a GPU can happen for multiple reasons. Now, if it's just happening because you're running your monitor at an incredibly high refresh rate, then that, to some extent, is basically the way that resistors and capacitors work. They get to a certain frequency and they're going to make a noise. Excuse me. Like that. If you've got a power supply which has got either unregulated voltage or voltage which is like fluctuating, that can also cause whine as well because of the I'm trying to think now. It's something to do with the way that the energy frequency is hitting the resistors or the capacitors or whatever it is, and there's a kind of almost like a friction effect because they're not in sync. I could be completely wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that is the reason. And that basically makes the coils or the resistors or whatever basically almost like a microwave. It's just vibrating it at a super high frequency. So you get that kind of screech or squeal. You don't generally tend to have coils for actually getting coil whine on modern graphics cards. They haven't used coil type resistors for ages, and they used to, even then back in the days, they used to have the coils. They'd put them inside of something like some sort of ceramic block and fill it with some sort of gel or silicone or whatever to try and isolate that. But the technology's moved on, and those kinds of resistors and capacitors are now more solid state, so you don't actually have the physical coils in there to whine anymore, but you still have that resistance factor. I think that's right. So basically, yeah, if you have a better quality power supply, or one that will deliver more amperage or voltage on that specific rail that the GPU is using, which I guess is going to be the 12 volt rail, but it might be a combination of them, I'm not sure. I think it must be 12 volt. Thinking about the wiring, because the wires were black and yellow for Molex adapters, so it must be 12 volt. Yeah, so a new power supply, a better power supply can potentially help you with the coil whine because you've got a more regulated power source going in. Or it could be just the fact that because you're running the GPU at such high frame rates, it's drawing a lot of power, the power supply is unable to give that much power to the PCI Express. Sometimes it can be even caused by something as daft as having a piggyback connector, because then you're not getting actual proper power through and you're causing resistance in the piggyback. So there's all kinds of things you can do. Does that answer your question? Maybe it does. Nick Byron says, the first Star Trek film I have never completed and always nodded off is Star Trek 2 or 3, onwards, totally engrossed. There was one, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was it The Journey Home? There was one of them where it was just extremely slow moving. It wasn't The Wrath of Khan. That wasn't too bad. Might have been the first one, or it might have been the third one, possibly. But yeah, very, very, very slow. Which was quite nice because it took some time with the cinematography, but sometimes you just want to be entertained rather than seeing cinematography. There we go. Skystalker says Star Trek the Motion Picture was very slow. Thank you. JB's Arcade Mod says, wow, I remember Boone. I used to watch it. Boone was weird. I'm sure there was one bit where Rocky, was it Rocky who was in it?
Yeah.
He saw a poo in the toilet
No,
or something.
that was in
Vampire Motorcycle.
yeah.
Yeah, he was in that, wasn't
That's where poo
he?
was.
See, I'm getting Vampire Motorcycle film and Boone mixed up.
Even use toilet paper. And this poo gets talking to him.
JB's Arcade Mod says Wrath of Khan was likely one of the best Star Trek films. Dave Underhill has explained Core Wine much better than I did. Thank you. David Under says, Mike is Mike so wrong. Inductor coils are one of the most common components on a GPU. Yeah, but the inductor coils, they're not made in the same way. They're not like an exposed coil like they would have been 10, 15 years ago. There's no visible coils. I think that's what I was trying to explain. And also, I'm pretty sure... Well, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure Gamers Nexus, when he was doing a thing about coil wine, he said that they don't use coiled inductors anymore, like they used to. But, I don't know. Ugh, where did Wildlife Snapper say something? Ah. Wildlife Snapper. Is it bragging to say that I was in Boone from 1986 to 1988 and played the part of Tommy alongside Neil Morrissey and Michael Elphick? Yes, it is bragging, but I've said it now. That's awesome. I'm going to have to IMDb that now. Let's have a look. Boone TV series Tommy. What else if I could spell Tommy? Oh no, it's kind of Tommy Flanagan is Mr. Fitzgerald. They're saying Boone 2022. There's not a 2022. Boone 80s.
I can't believe the difference in him when he joined EastEnders. Looked totally different.
That was a great film. A great TV show, I mean. Boone. Oh yeah, Boone. Christ, Michael Elphick looks young there. Well, he didn't, because he always looked old even then.
Got you.
Yeah, that was great. I do remember watching that and very much enjoying it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Right, scroll down. Wildlife Snapper, is your name Christopher Eccleston? No. That would be cool.
Wouldn't he have worked next door to us?
Yeah, because Christopher Eccleston would have worked next door to me in when we worked at Casualty in Cardiff, because they filmed Doctor Who in the next studio. David Under says, you can't make an inductor without a small coil of wire around a ferrite core. A lot smaller than old school ones, but still wire ferrite that can vibrate, creating noise. Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Don't lick your inner veins.
Wildlife Snapper says, and if you find it, don't say it. Okay, I won't. Marco says, Star Trek had much more depth than Star Wars. At the end, both franchises are ruined. Yeah, I think so. Right, it has gone past 11 o'clock. I didn't think it had gone that long. So, we probably should wrap this up now because it's wittering on. Shame there's not more technology news to talk about, really. There probably is, but there isn't. It's all very much samey. Although, we have got the 4080 Super to look forward to next week, which is supposed to be on the 31st, I believe it is. So that'll be, what's that? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Busy day, Wednesday.
Wednesday, busy day. Poor old Poppy's going to get her snips. Bless her heart. That'll be fun. So, yeah, thank you all for taking part. Thank you all for your contributions, financially and verbally or textually, however you work it out. Hopefully you've enjoyed the stream. If you have, smash the like button. If you aren't already, then click on the subscribe button and the channel notification. That way you're notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and you have been absolutely excellent. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now. Can't believe I said ciao for now. What's wrong with me? I need help. Thanks everyone. See you next week. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Say bye, Kath.
Bye.
She hates it when I do